right, everyone. This is Wild Phil with Wild Philosophy. Let's get wild. This is my friend Joey Horist. Joey is, how would you explain yourself? Yeah, a movie aficionado, a movie fan, right? Movie.
Yep. Big time movie lover, big time gamer, self-proclaimed billionaire, philanthropist, all that good stuff.
Sounds
You know,
good.
I am I'm Tony Stark, but I still live with my parents.
Do you do it like the other billionaires where you own a mine full of children,
Oh, that's the only way to do it. You got to maximize your
right?
profits.
I've had people like bitching to me about like Elon Musk, where they're like, "Would you own a mine full of children?" Of course, we could have like out of uniform day, bring your parents to work day. I mean, if anything, I hate Elon that he doesn't have the parents in the mine. I don't know. Anyways, so Joey and I met at my brother's girlfriend's party, which I have to mention this situation because I was saying how hilarious this was there, and I don't. You want me to share? Like,
Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, well, my brother have been kind of we feud on and off all the fucking time. We're like the Oasis brothers. Our mutual friends always need a fucking like. So what's the status? Can we invite both of you to a party type stuff? It's an ongoing joke. And so we finally went to this party, and my brother tells me, he goes, "So I just want you to know, my girlfriend has this friend who she has cerebral palsy, and she just shaved her head, and she's wheelchair bound, and I either like she identifies as they, them, or bisexual." And I'm like, "Well, thank you for the what is her social security number if you want to keep going? Like, what is this description for? Why?"
The last four digits of her credit card, please.
Yeah, exactly. Like, so is this like, why are you telling me this? And he goes, "Well, because I know you'd make fun of all that." And I was honest. I was like, "Well, she's got, I don't do that kind of stuff. That's too easy of a target for me. I've got class." But so I show up at this party, and I swear to God, this was some Curb Your Enthusiasm shit, because I show up, and there is at least 7 people who also have a disability with like walkers or canes, and I'm just like, is this a Vice documentary? Is this a support group? What is happening here? You know, like, I thought he was baiting me because you told me I don't know. I just like I talked about you before this with you before. Like, that isn't exactly like your average party. I was like, we're gonna just sit here and pretend this is a normal birthday gathering, you know. And then I started thinking, I'm like, you know, people have very specific sexual preferences, like Asian or you know. I'm like, I wonder if is Emma just like her friend type? Are they disabled? That's the first like thing box
Oh,
to check off.
you mean like I don't want to say like sexual preference, but like something like that, like an attraction, like towards like that type.
Yeah, like I never really knew people who have a friend type, but it seems for her it's like that disabled box better be checked off, which would make sense with me and my brother having epilepsy. It just keeps the thing going.
Yeah, I mean, good for her though, because a lot of people, find it intimidating or hard or
That's
difficult to
absolutely
be
true.
friends with those kind of people. So kudos to her that she's able to
That she's got a
open
good
her
heart.
and be nice like that.
Yes, that's absolutely true. I you know what? I'm gonna turn up your mic sensitivity a little. No, there's no problem, but I'm just calibrating while we're doing this.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, the only other time I was ever on a podcast, it was just over the phone, so I'm not used to like any of this.
It's all good. I hate doing that stuff just because like somebody's internet connection is gonna be shit, and you're gonna be talking over each other, and yeah, I just
That would be my shitty internet connection.
yeah. But we ended up so yeah. So I was at this party. I'm just like thinking in the back of my mind, when I have my birthday party, I'm just gonna invite 20 people with missing legs and just stare at my brother the whole time like, what are you looking at? You trying to be rude here, bro? Like, but we ended up talking, and we're both kind of like movie nerds. We have very strong opinions on that type of field of art, you know?
Yep.
And so other than that, I mean, I don't know, is there anything that you want to go on a rant about that's happened in the past 2 weeks? Anything new, Joey?
Well, I don't know about anything particularly exciting that happened in the past 2 weeks, but I can say, what is today, the 10th now? Like
11th.
11th? Okay, so like roughly 2 weeks, a week and a half. I got my birthday coming up. It'll be the big 30 for me.
Oh, the big three. Nice.
Yep.
How does it feel?
Well,
The dirty 30.
I always thought by this time of my life, I'd have a girlfriend, I would have like a house, have my own money, still, not be living with my parents or anything. And we see how well that all worked out, But it is what it is. I could joke around, but I'm thankful. I got my folks. They always got my back. They're always looking out for me in my time of need. That's more than some people got.
Yeah.
So I'm very grateful.
And there's a lot of people in your shoes as well. Like, it's not an abnormal thing, I would say.
Yeah. I feel bad because these shoes fucking suck.
Do they? Yeah. They look like, were they Ross Dress for Less? Be honest.
Oh boy, I don't even know. I've had these things since like high school. Like my feet they are what they are, and
Yeah.
shoes ain't broke, so just keep wearing them.
That's one thing I did notice. Like, talk about like how spoiled kids are. Is like, I always see kids with like the nicest, cleanest fucking shoes, and I just remember, like you, having one pair for 10 fucking years until my toes are sticking out like Marv in Home Alone, you know.
Yeah, I mean if they're not broken, they're doing their job. They're keeping your feet warm. Like why go spend like more money like just on something you don't need?
Yeah. So
Although we're probably both guilty of indulging in other vices, I'm sure.
I'm going to move this over here more.
Okay.
My OCD is going in. So, I guess the only thing I can share, like, is there any, as far as your, dirty 30, like, what are you gonna throw something big? Any strippers, male or female? Maybe some animals if you're into that.
I was thinking maybe we might do a game where we just get like the androgynous ones, you call them, and play like a guessing game, like what's really going on underneath, make it a party game.
That would be so you mean like your friends have to show up and you don't know, like you don't know that they're even your friends because they might be dressed up in a way you've never seen them before. They might be coming out at your party.
Yeah, no, yeah, you never know. But yeah, no. In all seriousness, though, just gonna try and keep it, low key this year. I'm gonna do something with some of my friends, go out for drinks or do something. But I'm trying to save money this year because I really want to I want to travel. So I was talking with my folks about it, and I'm like, yeah, no, let's just keep it low key this year. Like, let's just save money because I'm a big James Bond fan. I love all things to do with London, and
Yeah.
like I want to see like where they filmed the James Bond movies out in Pinewood Studios. So I'm like trying to.
I'm guessing that's in England.
Yeah, that's
right?
in England, and I'm trying to save money to get out there. So hopefully there's not another pandemic again at the end of the year, and it's like, oops, you can't go anywhere for 2 more years now.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's why because I have to say, like, we literally just met for the first time at this party, and I'm wondering, I want to put myself in your shoes, like, what this guy just wants me to go on his fucking podcast. What is going on here? And I'm like, I've never met anybody like movie nerd and then like obsessed with James Bond, so I'm like, I gotta have this guy on because I think similar to you. I love that whole Pierce Brosnan era, but I don't know. Like, are the new ones with Liam? It's Liam, right? Neeson.
No, no, no. Oh boy. No. Liam Neeson was considered for Bond in the 1990s before Pierce Brosnan got the role, and
But
then his wife was like, "No, you better fucking not. Like, I don't want you to do it." And then Pierce Brosnan got it. But Daniel Craig was the
Daniel
most
Craig.
current
That
James Bond.
that's who I'm thinking of because they look similar. No, Daniel Craig, Liam Neeson. I don't know.
Um,
Those fucking Brits, they
I
all look
mean,
the same.
I mean, yeah, kind of.
But I mean, like I always get on my Xbox. There's that Skyfall. Is that a good game? Is like or
Uh,
a good movie?
Oh, okay. I was gonna say the Skyfall game. You must be thinking of 007 Legends, where it covers, like, it's like a whole game, but then like each segment of the game, it's like, okay, you have like the Goldfinger segment, and it's like a tribute to Sean Connery. Then they have Moonraker for Roger
I don't
Moore, and you
know.
play.
I've never played it, so I don't even know.
Yeah,
Is it a good game?
it's a good game if you're like a diehard fan of the series and like you know like all the little James Bond ins and outs and the storyline, because I don't know, they kind of just rushed it when Skyfall was coming out. They wanted to capitalize on the 50th anniversary and
Yeah,
just
yeah,
it's kind of not put together the greatest, but if you're a hardcore Bond nerd, you might like it.
yeah. I mean, obviously, GoldenEye. That game with that movie, I don't think there's a better pairing of game with movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that was it. It was just chronologically in that game made fucking perfectly. I don't know. But I have to ask, like being a James Bond. There's my cat crying. He's a little bitch. I fucking hate. He does this all the time, and it drives me nuts.
Yeah, that's what my dog whines.
I was saying, so being like a James Bond fan, what do you think? I wonder. It's interesting of like the Austin Powers movies where they parody that.
Uh, well, when I was young, like you had Austin Powers like in the 90s, like oh my god, like the dirty humor and
Yeah,
stuff. Like this is like so funny and it still is, but you grow older, you kind of look back on it a little bit, it's like wow, this is really like what my younger self like thought was so funny. Now like to me, I think a good James Bond parody, I don't know if you've ever seen them, the Johnny English movies.
I think I was meaning to see it, but I couldn't sit through it because I love Mr. Bean so much. So it was like I couldn't see him in another character. That was just I think I tried sitting through one of them, but yeah. But yeah, you're saying that's good?
Yeah, I don't know, just like it's just my sense of humor, like one of my favorite scenes in that movie. I think it's been a number of years, so I might be wrong. I think it's like towards the beginning of the movie, and they have the guy that like Mr. Bean, Rowan Atkinson, the guy
Yeah.
that like he works for, he's like the real like James Bond-esque like type of character, and he's telling Mr. Bean like I'm going on this assignment now, like are these codes like I got to be able to open the hatches and get in the submarine. These are the right codes, and
Yeah.
he's like, "Oh, yes, 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 like you'll have no problem. I checked the codes myself. I verified them. You're good to go. It's fine." Then like the very next scene it cuts, it's like Agent Double O, like whatever his code name was, something's funeral, and then it's like cause of death, submarine hatches failed to open.
Yeah. That's do you like it's so it's like British humor, right?
It was actually written by the guys who did like the last 6 or 7 Bond films.
Okay, cool.
So yeah, if anybody's gonna parody, James Bond, who better than the guys that actually make the movies themselves?
Yeah. Do you like what's that fucking Kubrick movie? Is it Strange Love? Or is that
I know a Doctor Strangelove is
yeah,
that
Doctor. Yeah. Did you like that?
that one. I can't. I think I've seen bits and pieces of that one on TV. I really because the folks had to cut back on cable, I got whatever I could.
Yeah.
I got whatever I could find on the Fire Stick, or if I go to Walmart and happen to find something in the bargain DVD bin.
I have to give you this website. It's called like soap, the word soap, the number 2, and then day dot something, and it has every movie on there for free. My kid showed it to me. I the way I feel him finding it is like the way I felt when I first found out fucking Kazaa and LimeWire and BearShare back in the day.
Yeah, well, you could always download Kodi on the Fire Stick, and like that's good for getting movies too. But the problem is,
Ads.
well, no, not ads. Like, let me just give you an example. Like with the new Scream movies now, like
Yeah.
the popular thing. Instead of numbering our movies anymore, everything is Scream 2022, Scream 2023. Like they don't actually.
Oh,
like,
I didn't even realize
they don't
that.
actually like name their movies anymore.
Wait, so it's not named Scream 2 or Scream 3?
Well, the new one is Scream 6, but no, like if you look like on the titles, it's just like Scream, and then it's got like the VI like written like
Okay.
into this. But point being, if you're on this app and you have too many movies with like a similar title,
Yeah.
you're gonna click like, okay, I want to watch this, and you're gonna get something completely different.
Yeah.
So that, that's a problem.
I recently, well, so I was gonna finish up with like any updates this 2 weeks. So what's funny is, so I don't know if you said you like listen to a few episodes of this podcast. Like some I just interview, guests, and some it's a mix of comedy and mental health and trauma. And so what happened is, are you familiar with EMDR? Do you know what that is?
Oh, with the flashing lights.
It's either with flashing lights or it's scientifically backed hypnotism. You can do it with your fingers. Some people do it with snapping fingers or just moving your finger. It's scientifically backed hypnotism. You've heard of this before?
Yeah, I went to a therapist once. Funny story, and I was having some issues. Still kind of have some issues to this day, trying to work through. So I found this therapist online that claimed she would do it. I gave her my money, go to her office. It was above a Ditka's Steakhouse, so okay, just randomly setting the scene. So we show up in this building, and I'm like, okay, my mom dropped me off, and we're talking to the therapist. I'm like, okay, so now when do you, get out the flashlight? When do we start this? Like, when do we begin? Oh, no, young man, I can't do that on you. Like, see, like that's some powerful shit, and if I do it wrong, like you're gonna like go into a hypnosis that like you
The
might
fuck
not
is
come
that?
out. I know, it's like you really like just took my money to like say that.
What the fuck is that? And it said she's qualified for it?
Yeah.
That's fucking ridiculous.
I think she just wanted a check to go eat a steak.
Yeah, what the? Yeah, you can pay me in Mike Ditka steak vouchers also. I'm going to go straight down, but what the fuck is that? No, that's ridiculous. But it works. So it worked on me because I kind of give you my history, and I ranted on here many times about what's happened to me in the past 5 years, and I was fucking over medicated for like 2 years, and so I did EMDR. But the point is, I made a whole episode about my entire EMDR journey, because what I hate, like I mentioned it in that video, that anytime you fucking look up something, like there's so many like wannabe YouTubers now. So they just like either copy an entire article off Wikipedia and make these fancy PowerPoints. Basically what they do is they offer you shit that you can already Google. And so I wanted to sort of go in detail step by step what I did. And so here's the thing. I have all these groups on Facebook that I belong to, like depression group. I was misdiagnosed bipolar, so I'm still in the bipolar group. And then I'm in this epilepsy group. And once in a while, when I have these mental health episodes, I share them in there because, number one, I want to help other people out there. Number two, it really is just good for the views. It's interesting. So I share this EMDR episode in there, and this woman, I can't even explain to you how cunty she fucking worded this. She's like, actually your video was a little bit helpful, but it didn't really go into the details of EMDR. If anything, I would like to tell you that I believe that you have very severe ADHD, but that doesn't take away from the message of the video. I want you to know I really am happy for your journey, but I would seek help.
And you didn't even make the video. You're just trying to like be helpful.
No, I made the video like.
Oh, I thought because you were saying how YouTubers will like just do. I thought you meant like.
Well, I'm saying that YouTubers do that, but I wanted to make my own.
Oh, okay, yeah, okay.
And so I made my own where I go like step by step rather than like a very vague PowerPoint.
Oh, well then, wow, then that does fucking suck.
Yeah, so I didn't know what to say because I don't want to be mean on these mental health groups. So, but a little bit of mean came out of me. I was just like, well, you know what? Thank you for your very professional diagnosis, and considering your comment has such a far up, such a far down, I'm very glad that you're in this bipolar group. And she had like a fucking breakdown, like, and then I did feel bad because I looked at her other comments and it's literally just nonstop suicide attempts. So I'm glad I didn't go too mean, but still, like, I don't know. I was just debating this with my friend recently. Is like, because I was actually gonna go, I went to school to try and become a therapist. But I just didn't have enough money to have that 6 years. I only the 4 years, the master's, whatever. And with what people don't understand, like this isn't just a theory. The amount of information input we have day to day right now, every single person clinically has ADHD. I don't know if you realize that.
I mean, probably, yeah, like especially now, like people are always checking their phones. We're so addicted.
Yeah.
Like we gotta like be checking our Facebook. We gotta check our tweets. We gotta post, this to Instagram. Like we always constantly need that stimulation. So I don't doubt it.
Yeah, I mean I was even reading about this. Like my wife's really into board games, so she collects a whole bunch of them. There's this board game called the Logo Game, where they just you have a shit ton of major corporate logos, and you can identify them. And I literally read this thing about ADD where day to day, because of YouTube ads, because of ads in podcasts, there's just we could by heart identify like 1,300 logos.
Just like subconsciously, like just picking them up.
Yeah, whether it's whatever, that Starbucks, that fucking like.
Isn't that a mermaid?
Yeah. I've seen another version of that logo.
Oh, I've seen plenty of versions of that.
You know what
logo.
I'm talking about? But,
yeah.
Anyways, yeah, I just think, because you know what I think about is like when you think of, like, I grew up in the 90s, so I'm thinking, you know what fucking people did after work? They like sat on their porch in a rocking chair, had a cigar, maybe whittled some fucking wood, ate an apple, and just breathed in the air. And look at what we do now.
I mean, this was the 1990s. I don't know that we were whittling baskets necessarily back then, but you hang out on your front porch. Maybe the neighbors come over. You crack open some cold ones, and you just shoot the breeze. You're just hanging out.
Yeah, we didn't have. I have to put every single meal that I've eaten on fucking Instagram. I have to put every single dance that I have on TikTok. I have to check my Facebook to make sure people are liking me still. It was, I mean, all of that. That's ADHD. You know what?
I usually have to check my Facebook to see who's pissed off at me today.
Yeah. I agree with that. You know what I love the most is when I see there's people who blocked me like 12 years ago and they still have me blocked. I'm like, I'm glad I'm that.
You could see that shit? Like, who's got you blocked?
I have a... So I could tell you this. Actually, I should mention this because I was going to mention this on another episode, but since we're doing updates, I have a fake profile, and I think you'll really find this hilarious. So here's what happened, because this is going to sound really creepy. I have a fake profile, right? But
By the way, that's how we met. I thought your name was Mike Smith, and you invited me down into your basement, and I don't know how. I don't even know how I got here.
Yeah, what are we doing here, right? The chloroform is I didn't have enough left, in a rag. So
I feel like this is like the butterfly effect when like young Ashton Kutcher like wakes up like in the basement, like, okay, this is the part now where you start kissing, or like whatever he was doing.
well, so what happened with this okay. So I used to have an old podcast called
Yeah.
Hear Nothing, See Nothing, Say Nothing. It was with me because I don't shut the fuck up, so I'm hear nothing, see nothing because I had a blind friend, and then say nothing because I have a really socially awkward kind of guy on the couch mute friend, and he'd talk once in a while. And he eventually quit because he's like, I don't even talk on this podcast. So, anyways, and I would get all these ads. I don't know if you ever have you ever had like a page to promote something on Facebook, like a blog or
You,
a book.
like a whole other Facebook page, or just like like where like you people like it and give it the thumbs up.
Well, like you have your profile, but then you could have a page for like some people are authors. I'm like a comedian. I have a page for this this podcast, like a page that's linked to your profile, right?
Yeah, I have my James Bond fan page for the 20 or so family members that actually care to hear me rant
Yeah.
on and on about it.
Yeah. And so I kept getting this link that said boost your posts for $20 to get more likes, to get more views for my old podcast. And I was like, man, I'm not fucking giving money to Facebook for more views. I'm going to do this DIY. So here's what I did. We were talking about mob history, about that whole family secrets trial. One of the guys who didn't get nabbed was a guy named Johnny DeFranzo. And I know that Facebook, they have to check. They do a little bit of research to make sure you're a real person. So I just made a Facebook for Johnny DeFranzo and just fucking... I put them because I don't think Italian people get upset the way other people get upset about fucking like racial stereotypes. So I just made them... So I just made the most racially stereotyped Italian guy page. Just the cover photos, a night photo of Sicily. Every fucking post is either Frank Sinatra or Dean Martin, And what I would do is I call it infecting people's profiles. I would say I had this percentage in my mind where I was like 20% of everybody's friends are dopes that will add you for no reason. So it would be like I'd go on my brother's profile, add everybody there. 20% would add him just because, oh, he's friends with Robert. And then I would infect theirs and theirs and theirs and theirs. And eventually when I had so many friends, I would invite them all to like my YouTube channel, my YouTube page. Well, with Johnny DeFranzo, it didn't work because not everybody wants to add an old mob guy as your friend. And even Facebook kind of caught on because they're like, why are you? It literally said you are restricted from adding more than 100 people a day. Right. And, so this is how I checked, like when people block me or whatever. But so here's what's funny and creepy at the same time. Somebody actually in Melrose Park was related to Johnny DeFranzo, and they're like, what is this asshole doing? My fucking grandfather died 2 years ago.
Oops.
So I ended up making a new profile. Actually, I think my kid made it, and I just he's like, you can have it if you want. And I was like, okay, so how are we going to make a new profile? Well, for Facebook to sort of screw them over, you need a real common name. Not to be fucking racist, but how many Hernandez, Ramirez, Jimenez, Gomez are out there? So I just made this Allison Hernandez. You could look it up if you want. And I went on Google. I looked up Allison Hernandez. I ended up finding this random girl that's in high school. Just copied all her photos, put it on mine. They let it through. And you know what's creepy as fuck? I was like, I'm sick of adding people. I'm sick of doing the dirty work.
Yeah, you get a high school girl, I imagine the creepy men will come to you.
Dude, Johnny DeFranzo, I had to add 100 people a day. Allison Hernandez, I get 100 people adding me a day. And nonstop dick pics. It's fucking hilarious. And you know what's even more funny? I was just telling this to my co-host that's on once in a while. You know what I did is like I get a shit ton of Mexican guys where they send me like a voice clip saying like a romantic Spanish poem, and like here.
Oh,
Or it's on my.
This is for Allison.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
A high school girl, a girl in fucking high school. And so they sent me all these clips saying these poems. And the funny thing was, I am eventually going to air this once I get a collection. I'm kind of catfishing motherfuckers, but they're creeps, so it doesn't matter. But I went on my profile and I go, you know what? What's with all these pussies sending me romantic poems? I'm a fucking sexy addict girl. Send me them hairy ass pics. So I'm about to be flooded with some hairy ass pics by a bunch of creeps, and I'm eventually gonna air it on here. But yeah,
so that would make a very special episode,
right? Actually, you know what's funny regarding Emma? So my brother.
Emma, no matter what is said here today, we love you. It's all in good faith.
Yes. I'll take all the blame. She knows I'm a fucking loose cannon. But what happened is early on when my brother was dating her, this was so fucking weird because like it was the situation of like because there was lockdown and because we were going through all this shit in our family with the deaths and everything. I didn't really know Emma that well. Kind of like how you and me don't really know each other that well.
I just showed up in your basement.
Yeah. I was just like, this guy, let's have him on the So, one day I'm at my friend's house and Emma messages my wife asking, I'm really in a bad bind. Could you borrow me $400? And I was like, what the fuck? Who the fuck is my brother dating? Like, you know what I mean? Like if I ask you, I'm like, oh, hey man, we just met, but can I borrow $400? You know? It's so fucking like classless.
That you would get a very polite fuck no.
Yeah. So I was like, this is an absolute like I kind of felt that it was a scam. I kind of immediately felt that it was a scam. Then we verified, like I called my brother, like, oh yeah, is this so I was just kind of fishing for the scammer that hacked Emma's profile. I just was talking to them for like 2 hours. Like, well, I'm trying to do this, but I never used Venmo. I've never used Cash App, you know, so I'm working it out. And then finally at the end, my, what the fuck was it? I go, so is it okay if I screenshot you what I'm doing? That way I know I'm doing the right thing. And I just sent them a close up of my asshole and they got so fucking mad. It was funny as hell. My friend took it and he's like, dude, you must have not showered in 3 days. Because as soon as he opened up that clam, the room was fucking filled. and oh my, and then the thing that was even, I don't know if it's creepy or pathetic. They still kept trying to say that they're Emma. And they used a deep fake app. Like, no, this is really her. And they're like walking in some fucking square. You look in the background, it looks like an Eastern Bloc country because all the apartments are close together. And then it's just Emma's face weirdly deep faked on some bitch.
I didn't know Emma went to Russia.
Yeah, right. So, and then the cherry on top, the funniest part about that was my brother messaged me. He goes, "Oh, so did Kelly send her the 400?" I go, "No, absolutely not. She's a scammer." She goes, "Do you mind if you show me the conversation?" I'm like, "Why? You don't want to see it?" And he goes, "Well, what did your wife talk shit to who she thought was my girlfriend?" I'm like, "You know what? I'll send you the conversation." He's like, "I didn't need to see my brother's asshole." Like, so, but yeah, but that's what happened with that. So,
yeah, now that you mentioned it, you got me thinking back. You got the gears grinding a little bit. I had a similar circumstance. One of those scammers. Are you going to send me money? Are you going to buy me like the phone call, the calling cards, whatever it is?
Oh,
that
yeah,
they
yeah.
want that bullshit. So I'm leading him on and on and on. Finally, I got the guy so mad, he like Facebook called me, and like I heard a voice on the other end, and he's like, "You,
Was he Indian?
I, I'm just gonna do the accent. I'm not gonna claim and
Yeah.
offend anybody. I don't know what this was from. This was just what he sounded like.
Maybe it was a white guy with just
You,
he grew up in
God,
India.
God is going to punish you. God will punish you." And I'm just like, yeah, get in line, buddy. You have no idea like what I've been through. You already missed out on that one.
Yeah. That's fucking. You know what? Actually, like I'm positive you've seen the glitter bomb videos, right?
No, can't say that I have.
Oh, you haven't? Okay, then, because I was about to say, like, who the fuck doesn't know about those scammer guys? But no, the glitter bomb videos are this YouTuber who he's a engineer, and he built these where he got like people's permission where he makes a fake Amazon box, and when you open it up, he like really got it high tech. Yeah, I gotta send you a link because they're fucking hilarious.
I kind of know what this is, and like it all like sprinkles out like all over their face, and
and there's a fart spray going, and it's a clip of Kevin McAllister going, "Ha ha, got you. Are you thirsty for more?" You know, like yeah. So I'm just like after seeing those, like how do people not know the stereotypical like Indian guy scam? I'm sorry, but like that guy, he tracked down where these old people are getting scammed, and it's all these like mass, like those shady fucking like offices that always say for lease. There's just like a gang of like 20 Indian people in India scamming old people, you know?
Yeah, it's unfortunate, you know, like they call you up, like they pretended to the old people, they pretend to do like say they're one of their grandkids or something. They say the name like real fast so they can't catch on. Like, wait, this person doesn't know what they're talking about, and they take advantage of them. You know, it sucks.
Yeah, it's fucking sad. You know, I speaking of, you know, this is a real wild philosophy episode because somehow everything ends up with race. That's but speaking of Indian scammers, no, I'm just joking around, but I have to mention this because this was so bizarre. You've watched like Tim and Eric, right?
A little bit.
You know how the characters are just really fucking weird looking. They just have bad makeup or they're sweaty, you know?
Yeah.
Dude, so during lockdown, when I got laid off my welding job, I worked at Aldi, and I'm not even joking. You know those you know that henna ink they use for hands? There was a guy in my line. I was like, it's funny too, because during lockdown was the first time I tried shrooms, and I was like, am I fucking hallucinating this? Because this is so bizarre. There was a guy in my line who used henna ink. He was bald like a bowling ball. No horseshoe, no little fuzz, just bald like a bowling ball. Dalsum Indian ball, basically, from Street Fighter. And he drew on his entire head a full head of hair with henna ink, like a comb over.
What was it melting off?
It was leaky and shit like Rudy Giuliani. It looked so weird. I'm like, dude, like, you have to be mentally ill to do this and like not do it as a joke, or this is this fucking 70-year-old Indian Tom Green, you know, pulling pranks on people. Like,
yeah, I mean, the only way I think like you could really do that. I know some people get like they shave their head and then they like tattoo it in, so it looks like you like just got the buzz cut like all the time.
Yeah. I think I mentioned this before, but this is fucking crazy. I have a friend who he's in a punk band. The band is called Skank, but his name, they call him Skunk because he shaves his head like a skunk. And I think he was a bartender at some bar, and he goes, man, you won't believe this fucking guy that just walked in. I'm like, this guy, there was just this like, there's a large group of these people. I'm not trying to be offensive, but when like those butch like Puerto Rican lesbians with the flat top, you know, it was one of these girls. She's actually white. She was important, but she, you know how like they have the fade, like gangbanger guys like have that fade. She tattooed the fade on. It looks so fucking weird. And he's like, man, what the fuck is this guy doing in my bar? A week later, she went to prison for murder because she was actually in a fucking gang. she shot up somebody at a hotel in Palatine.
Well, then better not piss her off then.
And you want to know what was the craziest thing? Because this was so bizarre, and she's a rapper, so I had to check her out. Her name's like not Polo G, something fucking Buddha G. That's her name. If you want to look her.
Buttigieg, that sounds like Pete Buttigieg.
Yeah, yeah, it does. But she was, or I think she was around before Pete Buttigieg got big. But Pete Buttigieg isn't he the guy that's like, he talks about how he used to be a skateboarder because he's like so progressive or something. Is that the guy that I'm thinking? I'm thinking of somebody else. I'm not really into politics, but
no, I think what. Oh God, this is gonna really reflect how stupid I thought he was the guy. Maybe I'm thinking of somebody different too, but like the politician who was like, oh yeah, like I've been through like all this shit in my life, and then they like back checked his story, and it's like, no, you didn't like go through like any of this.
I don't know. But the way you describe it, I almost feel like every politician is like that. You know, Elizabeth Warren being a Native American chief and fucking. I mean, I feel like a lot of politicians have that backstory.
Yeah. It's like to get into Washington D.C. you have to, like how they teach like in the Secret Service, they got to teach you how to beat the polygraph test. It's like the same thing. Like, we're all liars here. You need to learn how to lie convincing, and then we'll welcome you in.
Yeah. I was gonna so Joey Horist. I'm gonna go to the interview. Oh yeah. My cat's smelling your 10-year-old shoes. But
yeah, probably smell my dogs.
But you should. It's so funny because this guy's the fat bully. I'm pointing at my obese cat Pierogs, and dude, the people in my neighborhood, my townhouse community. I'm like, dude, how the fuck are your kids not on billboards for missing? Because the first year that I lived here, I'm not joking, the first year, I found 6 lost dogs. I'm like, am I just some kind of Disney superhero?
A Disney princess.
Yeah. So I just like, I ended up finding all these dogs, and I remember I brought one in, and his tail got like a squirrel puffed. He was so fucking terrified. It's like, yeah, that's right, bitch. You've been a bully this whole time to the other cats. Now you got, whatever. Sam the fucking bulldog is in the house.
Pick on someone your own size.
Mm-hmm. But I am working on a bit because this fucking bastard. During lockdown we fostered a shit ton of kittens. He's neutered, and he would just hump and go at him for 20 minutes at a time. So he's a fat rapist, and I had a bit where I was talking about, but it's okay because he's an animal, and that's what they do. So it's cute, right? But
yeah, God bless him that he could go through that whole procedure and still have that kind of drive.
Yeah, I think he's doing it for like a dominance thing, but he's so fat that I've literally like sat during lockdown. We were all at home for hours at a time, so I was just sitting playing games, and I just hear like this muffled like. I'm like, where? He's not humping anybody. He just had a kitten stuck underneath his belly that he was sitting on. It was ridiculous, but
another one of the cats.
Yeah, well, one of the kittens.
Oh, geez, that's rape.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
That's like sexual harassment right there.
Yeah.
Stuff.
We need to start the Meow 2 movement. Yeah.
Hashtag Meow 2.
Exactly. But so Joey Horist, I think, where did you grow up?
Basically my whole life, Addison, Illinois, went to Elmhurst College for a little bit, like kind of like what you and me were talking about earlier. Your ma was like, you have to go to college.
Yeah.
My folks were kind of like the same thing, like, like you're going. Then the college bills started coming in, and it's like, maybe not.
Yeah.
And then obviously I had my health issues too. I had some other stuff going on, so I completed about 2 years. I went to Elmhurst College, and then that was in like 2014. I haven't been back since then. I've been trying to make it on my own, and we obviously see how well that's going. 30 years old, still unemployed with the folks. So I'm like Scarface would say, your son made it, mama. He's a success.
Yeah. Do you like Scarface?
Love Scarface.
I love Scarface too. A lot of people tell me that they hate that. There's a lot of like, I don't know, people who they think it's like a toxic masculinity thing in the comedy scene. Dude, that opening scene where they're talking about how hard Cuba was, that immigrant thing, and all these fucking immigrants going for the American dream, that literally puts a lump in my throat because that's like my whole family. Because I grew up I grew up like sharing a fucking apartment with 20 different other Polacks that are trying to do the dream, just like my family. And so I love that movie. But I also
I love the made-for-TV version where they change out the swear words. You ever see that?
no, I haven't.
Then like in the beginning, they're like looking at him, they're examining him. He's got the scar on his face. Where'd you get the beauty scar, tough guy? Eating pussy? You're not gonna get a scar like this eating pussy, let me tell you. And then the TV version, where'd you get the beauty scar, tough guy? Eating pineapples? You're not gonna get a scar like this eating pineapples, let me tell you.
That's fucking hilarious. No, I never heard of that. You know what I did see though that made me cry from laughter like a fucking madman was I went to, you know how, do you smoke weed?
I've tried weed before. I've tried the edibles. Gave me like terrible anxiety. Wound up like hiding in my garage because it was like the only place cold enough because I was sweating so
God.
bad. So I'm like, nah, not for me. Because I tried it for my health issues. I got like a brownie. Everybody's like, okay, like eat it, sit back, relax. It's gonna help you take the edge off. It's gonna give you an appetite. It's gonna make you eat. You're gonna like feel so much better. It did absolutely none of those things.
Brownies are the fucking devil, dude. I think brownies triggered my panic attacks. They opened a door that never fucking closed in my mind.
Yeah, the Pandora's box of mental health.
Yeah, you know, you know what my theory is? Like, I never heard anybody talk about this on a podcast. I never heard any doctors talk about this. You know how they say weed triggers schizophrenia?
I've never heard that, but like hearing it now, like, yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah. Well, my theory is, because I've seen it proven in every fucking situation, is that so like going to get all this history that I have with getting medicated and going to therapists, you know, you could have schizophrenia right now, but it could just be so mild that number one, it's manageable, and number two, that you don't even have to go to a doctor for it. Because
am I even really here right now?
Right? I mean, this is butterfly effect, right?
Yeah.
So, but I was gonna say that like, so because people in America, a lot of times they see things in extremes. So it's like, I mean, that's how when people told me when I got misdiagnosed with bipolar, I'm like, all right, I'm a Kanye, time to be anti-Semitic, you know. Like that's a symptom of it, right? So like they just take it to the extreme where you could have it just so mild that you've never even went to a doctor. So the point is, I feel like weed, whatever problem you have that's like minuscule, it just fucking exasperates it. Like if before you smoked weed you had a little bit of anxiety, that opens that up. If before weed you're you're a fucking gluttonous snacker, bro, you're gonna be 500 pounds smoking weed. You know, like that's just how I feel. And so or if you're a moody fucking person, you're gonna be Chris Benoit on steroids when you smoke weed, you know.
So basically, the people that truly smoke it and calm down, they just got life all figured out and they got it good, and it's just exasperating.
Well, I feel like those people, their quote unquote problem is they're kind of maybe lazy already in life, so they calm down more because weed makes it okay. That's just my opinion, though. That's just how I feel.
Yeah, you know, neither of us are medical professionals, so
yeah,
you know,
but
take this at face value.
But the reason why I was mentioning it, we were talking about how you saw Scarface in the TV version. What happened to me was sometimes when I smoke weed, I'll have I call it like a weed hangover where you're just really giddy the next day. I went to a Jiffy Lube and for some reason they had Three Stooges on the Spanish channel and I was laughing my ass off because it's just like, no, amorimo, you don't like it, mimo. Like it was the funniest shit I ever seen. Like I'm like, whoever the fuck dubbed Three Stooges in Spanish, like how did they not like break out laughing trying to fucking make this 1930s show? But so you were saying, so you went to college and then like I thought I heard you mentioning something at the party that you were trying to write like a movie script.
Yeah, I've dabbled in short stories, screenplays, stuff like that. It started when I first got sick. I was actually bedridden for like the first couple of years because like I was just in so much pain. Like I stopped going to school.
When
And
you say you first got sick with cerebral palsy,
no. Cerebral palsy is
you get
that's something from birth. Like you're born with it. You always have that.
I'm a complete idiot. So yes,
No, that's all right. I don't mind
I
explaining it. It was weird because like when I was like a kid and like in school, it was like nah, I never wanted to like talk about it. I never wanted to like explain it or anything. It's like nah, let's keep this like down low. And like now I'm older, it's like I want to tell everybody.
yeah, it's good because people want to hear about it. You know, like
Yeah, but getting back on track though. So cerebral palsy, like that was just given. Always had that. Then when I was around 15 years old, I got something called postural orthostatic tachycardia. And
say that 3 times.
postural orthostatic tachycardia. Postural, I can't do it that fast, but
All right.
okay. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe Emma will be okay with me saying this. Maybe she's told you already. Maybe not. I don't know. But she actually has a degree like of the same thing too.
Oh, POTS, right? That's what
Okay,
it's
yeah.
called.
So
Yeah.
you've heard of it, POTS.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. I didn't hear that long name.
Yeah,
I just
that's like what the full, like POTS is like the
yeah.
acronym or like whatever you would call it.
I'm really glad that you mentioned it with the long name because the first time I heard somebody tell me like, oh, I got POTS, I'm like, all right, well, I got fucking pens, bro. What the fuck does that mean? You know? Like,
I usually get you got pot, like I got a lighter, like let's go, man. Like
yeah,
that's usually what I get. But yeah, basically what that is it's very similar to like what people are getting now, like with COVID disease, like after they or COVID-19, after they recover, they get something called long haulers disease, and
is it like long COVID?
sort of like the symptoms that you get like with long haul COVID. It's very similar to POTS. Like you
Fatigue.
like when standing up, like you get fatigued, you get the racing heart rate, you get the brain fog, you get like lapses in your memory, it's hard to focus, and like a whole mess of like autoimmune disorder like type of things. And
Is it considered an autoimmune disorder?
yes.
Okay.
And that's actually if you could say good, that's something good that's come from COVID because now people are seeing like this long haulers, COVID or whatever they're calling it.
Yeah.
Now that people are seeing that and it's like so similar to POTS, people are looking into it more and they're like, like what is this? Like
Yeah.
what's going on? We need to get to the bottom of this. Like we need to figure this out more, and that's brought like more research to POTS that like there hasn't been
Yeah.
in a long time.
When I heard POTS, like I'm just being bluntly honest. Like the first time I looked it up, I was like, this either sounds like fibromyalgia or like just a new diagnosis for people who are out of shape. That's what, because I didn't know like it's a real fucking thing, you know?
Well, yeah, that was the thing for a while. Like when I was going to doctors and they didn't diagnose me right away. It took a couple of years to figure it out, and they were always doing my blood pressure and my heart rate when I would get in the office, and everything was like always real high. So then like my mom would, get on my ass. She didn't know any better back then. You need to start exercising. Like, look at you, like out of breath. Like, what are you doing? Like, obviously then, we didn't have the knowledge that, we do now. We just didn't
Yeah.
know.
Well, I mean, I remember reading this thing in like one of the mental health groups I was in that like people with cerebral palsy definitely are way more in shape because of how much effort you have to take just to like transport yourself. And I
Yeah,
didn't even.
like your muscles don't work the same way like as a regular person. Like
Yeah.
just like this, like the simple act of like, okay, like I'm laying like on my back, like I have to sit up now. Like you have to move in like a certain way. Like
Yeah.
just like the simplest things that people do like every day. Like for a person with cerebral palsy, like it takes so much more energy.
Do you think when you get stressed out about life that you see the symptoms like heighten more?
Yeah, definitely. I could tell, like, I just feel like more tense and, like my joints get more achy because, like, your muscles then, like, start
Yeah.
to tighten up and you just feel the wear and tear on your body, like, so much more.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, like I think I mentioned when we were at that party that I worked with a guy who they didn't tell me that he had Tourette's, and he just had these spasms in his shoulder, and I mean, I laugh about it now, but then I was pissed off because nobody fucking told me, and he did like the wrong. He didn't do. He can't control it, so it's not wrong. But he fucking like one time he told me he whenever his shoulder would spasm, he would either do this thing. For anybody who listens to this, it's kind of like when you swing your hand for "He's a Jolly Good Fellow,"
Yeah.
and the other thing you do is he'd like spasm, like push his chest forward real like quickly, like he's trying to be like, "Come at me, bro, come at me," and so one day he went up to me. He goes, "Man, you really did a good job on this." But then he spasmed and he did that "come at me, bro" thing, and I was like, "What are you like? Are you just like you get violent when you're happy?" Or, I didn't know. And then another time I fucked something up, and he did like the for "He's a Jolly Good Fellow" and I'm just like, this is so weird. And then finally I asked somebody like, "Oh yeah, that's his Tourette's." I'm like, "Why you fucking assholes that you didn't tell me?" Because I'm just like, "Oh, well, I guess that's just what he does." Like I thought it was just a quirky trait of his. But cuz
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know, I guess, like you could say like, oh, like, this is like something, they say like, oh, like life hacks they don't want you to know about or something like that. Like, I mean, something like people with disabilities don't want you to know about. I mean, actually, we really do. I mean, like if you're being cool about it and you're really trying to understand, like it's not a
yeah.
crime. Like go ahead and ask. Like like I'm sure like if you were being like respectful about it and
Yeah.
genuinely trying to understand, like if you like would have asked him, like that would have been fine. Because
Yeah.
I've been in situations before, like like I'd be in like a grocery store or like back when they still had GameStop, I'd be in a game, in the game store trying to buy something. And people would come up to me, they'd kind of, have the little limp, like I do, and oh, hey, what's going on, man? I couldn't help but notice you. I was just wondering, you have CP too, and it's like, yeah, and they just want to understand. Like as long as you're cool about it, like it's not a big deal to
Yeah,
ask.
yeah. I always that's another thing I try to like push towards on this podcast. Well, here's what's crazy. Fun fact: I quit doing this because I'm like, this is too much fucking work. But I was gonna be a speaker for what NAMI is.
No.
It's a National Association of Mental Illness. So I was gonna be like one of those guys that shows up at like a health mental ward and speaks about the trauma that I've been through. And I was like doing it. I'm not doing it anymore. Fuck that shit because there's so many there's so many gatekeepers there. I'm just gonna be fucking honest. Like, have you ever seen people who their whole fucking lives they're like shat on, and then they give a position of power like a cop or a security guard, and they're fucking assholes about it.
Got some Paul Blart going on.
Yeah, yeah, and there were just I mean, this is just the truth. I went through 8 women who I wrote a 15-minute speech to tell like these people who are suffering from mental illness, and they're like, no, you gotta revise this, you gotta revise this, you gotta cut this out, you gotta fucking 8 times. Finally, on the 8th one, I'm just like, you know what, just whatever you want me to fucking say, whatever you want me to say. And she's like, did you look at it? Did you look at the edits that I made? I'm like, yeah, I did. It's fine. She goes, oh, which part do you think is fine? I'm like, whatever you edited. She's like, you didn't read it, did you? I'm like, no, I didn't. Because I'm on the 8th time. I don't fucking care.
I just read it like the other 7 times.
Yeah, she was like, she was like so one of those people that just like their job way too fucking much, like, you know. And I'm just like, am I ever gonna talk to these people, or am I gonna just be revising this with 5 fucking English teachers, you know? So I just quit. But I forgot where the fuck I was going with this. That's my ADHD that this old lady was talking about coming in. But you know what I was, so one of my messages that I was going to do through doing these speeches was, I feel like anybody, whether you got a disability, whether you got trauma, this is like not a popular opinion, but what I say is, take the most vulnerable fucking thing about you and write a joke about it. And it really helps with coping. And that's why a lot of times, like, I had a bunch of people where I had a whole set about just shitting on epilepsy, how funny it is. Like, you know, girls being like, so are you going to go into one of your fits during sex? I'm like, well, you ever play GoldenEye 64? Yeah, I love that game. What about with a rumble pack? Know what I'm saying? And then she'd be like, "Oh God, yeah." I go, and to be honest, bitch, if I'm having a fucking seizure during sex, maybe we're not the best match, you know. Like, if you're triggering my seizures, like, maybe we shouldn't do this.
Well, first of all, if you're having one and her first thought is to still keep going,
yeah,
like, what's
right?
going on there? Like,
maybe she's putting that finger up my asshole too far, you know, push the wrong button. But so I kind of wanted to do that in these speeches, because I don't know, man. Like, I went to one of these support groups, and it's just like, it's so dragging down. And I want to tell these people, like, you know, that like one of my favorite movies, we're gonna get into movies soon. One of my fucking top 3 of all time is Shawshank Redemption. And when he says get busy living or get busy crying, I say get busy laughing or get busy crying, because why not? You know, actually, I was gonna ask, have you ever heard of Josh Blue?
No.
Okay, I think you might.
Is this a comedian?
Yeah. So what's a fun fact? He won. Have you ever heard of Just for Laughs?
Yeah.
So he won. They have this Just for Laughs competition. It's kind of like American Idol, but for comedy. And he won it. And then that's when he became fucking big. And he has cerebral palsy, and his whole set is about cerebral palsy. And the funny thing was, like, I was you know who Jeff Ross is? The guy who the roast master general at all the
he's got like the real curly hair, doesn't he?
He used to have curly hair, but he's shaved bald. He has alopecia now.
Oh yeah, that's right. He does have the shaved head. Yeah. Better not make any G.I. Jane jokes around him.
He actually, they asked him on a podcast what he thinks about it, and he goes, yeah, I was offended because actually I'm playing G.I. Jane. So, but yeah, I went to go see, he was my number one first. He's the reason why I got into comedy, because I had a really fucking critical family. So I just, like, he helped me, like, roast the fuck out of my family. And I saw him 3 months ago. Maybe 5 months ago. He was in Schaumburg at the Chicago Improv. So I go to this fucking show, and while I was driving right here in Schaumburg, like right down, like a mile away, there's a Prairie Arts Center that's usually for like kids musicals or Cub Scouts, and it says Josh Blue is going to be there. So he was in town as the same as Jeff. So I go to see Jeff, and then I see this guy at the, and by the way, Josh Blue, he looks like a metalhead. He's got a long, like, beard, goatee. long ass curly hair. I mean, he looks like D. Schneider, and I'm trying to keep the cigar lit while I'm talking. I'm at this Jeff Ross show, and he's walking around asking for a lighter for a cigarette, and people, because they don't know who he is, they didn't even think that he has cerebral palsy. They're like, oh, this is, they have their judgments. They're like, oh, he's fucked up on something because he's walking weird and asking for a lighter. And I'm like, holy fuck, it's Josh Blue. Why are you at this show? He's like, oh, I was in town. I'm like, can I take a picture? He's like, well, you got a fucking lighter, man? But
Yeah.
no, it was cool. But yeah. So I am gonna take a quick piss break. I don't know if you need to go to the bathroom or anything.
I'm cool, but then I was wondering also if you want me to get back on track. I was just thinking now both of us got ADD brains. We went all over the fucking place. This kind of started off with how did I get into screenplays? I could
Yeah.
circle
We could.
back to
You know
that.
what? I'll hold it in. Let's talk about how did you get into screenplays?
Okay, so then we got that whole part out of the way. Then I was I was bedridden. I was sitting around, so don't need to go through that again.
Yeah.
We did that. So
Well, I forgot to. I'm sorry. I don't mean to interrupt. How did you? So the POTS is what gave you high blood pressure?
it was like raising my heart rate, messing with my blood pressure, giving me like real bad anxiety, and then also at the same time too, I had an infection in my gallbladder, and I had gallstones at the time, and I didn't know it, and they were like trying to like like when you pass a kidney stone like that, but
Yeah.
with your gallbladder, and it was trying to like spit them out like into my body and like expel them, and they didn't diagnose that at the time, and that gives you like incredible stomach pain and you feel like you're dying.
Yeah.
So
So basically, your body was like you weren't overexerting yourself, but because of the POTS, it was reacting like you were.
yeah, my body, just all the check engine lights were going off.
Okay.
So I'm laying around, so got a lot of extra time on my hands, so I start watching a lot of TV shows, a lot of movies, and
Yeah.
stuff like that. And
Do you feel like you were upset, like you were a huge film fan and movie before this as well?
I always loved movies and shows and stuff like that before, but before I got sick, my original plan, like because I was such a huge James Bond fan, I always wanted to do like something Secret Service related. Like I wanted to maybe do like CIA, do like travel to other countries, do like the covert like type of stuff. But
Yeah.
with the cerebral palsy and like all my other like health issues and stuff, it's like the best I would get would be like in an office somewhere. I wouldn't really get to travel or do like anything, and I always thought like traveling would be cool. Like that was like the main appeal of it to me. So I'm like, nah, this kind of lost its appeal now. Like let's try
Yeah.
something else. And then because I was watching so much TV and stuff, I had all this spare time. Then one day I was like, maybe I could try this. It's not exactly video editing or anything. You don't need a lot of expensive equipment. Like
Yeah.
I have my laptop right here.
Yeah.
It's always with me, and like that's all you need. So I started writing, and I still do my primary form of writing is like short stories, but I've written a couple of screenplays before. One, you could actually check it out online. It's called Mentis. It was directed by a friend of Emma's sister Becky. It was her friend Derek, and Chivi's Films. They helped me put the short film together. I said the title, right? Did I
Yeah.
say Mentis?
Yeah, Mentis.
So that I made, that was my first short film. It came out in 2017.
Are they like spy CIA related?
There is like a element of mystery to it, but
Like if you-
that's all I could really say. I would rather you like see the
Okay.
movie like for yourself. I could like a brief synopsis of it is like this guy who's new in town. He's working a dead end job as a waiter, and just like life is not going his way, and somebody like a man in a like mysterious suit leaves behind like this cell phone at like one of his tables, and he takes it home, and he starts getting these weird phone calls on it, and he starts blacking out, and like all this stuff like starts going haywire in his life. And
Okay.
obviously then I can't elaborate from there, or I'm gonna spoil
Yeah,
things.
yeah. I mean, if you had to call it a genre, would like thriller?
Yeah, I'd say thriller.
Okay. Cool.
And
How long was this short film? How long are short films usually? Like half hour?
mine is about like maybe like 18 to 20 minutes. It depends. They could go anywhere from, like just 2 minutes, of like just something absurd,
Yeah.
they could go
Is
up, they could be like upwards of like an hour. I mean, like, it depends on, the story and what
yeah.
the writer and the director are trying to tell.
Is the guy you mentioned, Derek, who did this? Is that Becky's boyfriend?
No, no, no. Becky's married, I believe, isn't
Yeah,
she?
yeah, yeah. Her
Um,
husband.
yeah, no, they're just all really good friends. I believe it was
Okay,
they all
okay.
went to high school together or something like that. Because I'm only 30. They're like in their 40s. They're a little bit older than me. I think that was like how they all met and
Okay.
got to know each other.
Yeah, I was just asking. I have a friend who recently started a job at a small movie company, and it seems cool as hell. He does like, what he does is the company that he works for. It's a lot of like D&D nerd type people, and what they do is they make a lot of like, you ever see those like goofy like vines where it's like if how somebody would fall in real life if it was run by the Skyrim
Oh
software,
yeah, yeah,
and they're
yeah.
like
Like
vibrating.
yeah, they do like the ragdoll physics and
Yeah,
stuff. Yeah.
yeah, that's the kind of stuff he does, and it's really cool. You know what they're actually doing it right now. I mean, I don't even know if I have to. I can't even rightfully promote it because I forgot the name. But their biggest thing right now is they've been working on this like 4-year project doing a documentary on galloping ghosts. Do you know what that is?
No.
Oh my God, you would fall in love there. So
Galloping
I
ghosts.
will I will fucking plug them right now, and hopefully they'll. I mean, I don't know who's gonna see this because this podcast is 80 views maximum, but Galloping Ghosts. So Galloping Ghosts is, I don't know if I'm gonna do it justice, but it's a arcade run by these nerds. I think it's in Brookfield, and it is the biggest arcade in the world, and it's here in Illinois. It is the biggest fucking arcade. It literally has every fucking arcade game you can imagine. And what they did was is they bought this like warehouse, and they just kept like bidding. They got all these like this crew together that like this guy knows how to repair old machines. This guy knows how to run the software so that if the software is broken but the hardware is good, how to redo it. And they have like, it's on the weekends it's $20, and it's unlimited play. You should I think you should go there. When they literally have everything you can imagine, from fucking like Dig Dug and Pac-Man to, do you remember in the 90s they had that arm wrestling game where there's this robotic arm?
I mean, I think I might have seen it before in passing. I don't know that that's something I've ever played, but
Yeah.
yeah, I was born in 1993, so
Yeah.
like by the time the 2000s came around, I'm only like 6 or 7 years old by then. So the 90s, I was there. I just
Yeah, yeah,
like
yeah.
memory's a little hazy because I was so little.
They just, oh man, it's fun. But the reason why they're doing a documentary is cuz yeah, they kept getting so much fucking revenue on buying these games. The thing that I think is hilarious is they started buying up all the warehouses around to where now they have strictly a pinball room, and now they have strictly like video games, and then they even have a fucking galloping ghosts like mechanic. Then they have a galloping ghosts iron gym. It's crazy.
Yeah,
It's
they're really branching out.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's definitely a place to check out if you go to Illinois. So I remember I went there with my wife. The last time I went, it was a fucking nightmare because it was the day that there was a furry convention in Rosemont. So all the furries came
Oh
there,
boy.
all the furries came there, and there's people like fighting over games, but they're not screaming at each other.
What are they hissing?
They're hissing or they're growling or making animal sounds. I think one of them was drunk and just started fucking in the middle of the aisle. It was the most bizarre shit I ever seen. It's if I was on shrooms there, I would be traumatized seeing all this shit. But yeah. So this screenplay you wrote for Mentis, do you have another one that you wrote or that you're working
Yeah,
on?
I have another one that I finished maybe like I'd say just last year, year and a half, give or take, and like it's never really done until you actually like start filming and getting things going. Because like I've been editing and taking things out and putting things in. Like the next project I'm working on now, the working title I have it called as Hard to Kill, and it's actually it's a mafia story, kind of
Okay.
like an action, a little bit of comedy, and what this one is about, it's this guy who was going to join the mafia, but then at the last minute he was like, no, this lifestyle isn't for me. Like I can't do this. I don't want any part of this.
Yeah.
But then, because it's the mafia, you don't just get to say, like, okay, I think,
They
I
pull you
quit now.
back in.
Yeah, you don't get to do that.
Hooah!
So he winds up like the crew that he was gonna work for in the story. They wind up taking him, and they think they whacked him. They leave him like in like this landfill, like just surrounded by garbage. They think, okay, we shot him in the head. He's dead. Like that's it. But then like the bullet didn't hit him like in the head the right way. So like he's still going, and now
Yeah.
like he's alive and he lost like all like sensation of feeling, so now he can't feel any pain, and like now he's got to get revenge like on all the people that
Hmm.
tried to kill him.
Cool. Yeah. Did you go to school to learn how to write this way, or is this just was like a self-made hobby type thing?
I took some classes for it, and like when I was in college I did like some writing classes and stuff, but for the most part it was just like, okay, like this is something like I want to do, like get to Google, get cracking, like just read. Most of it I had to learn on my own.
Yeah. No, that's cool, man. I have a there's a comic I do comedy with. He goes by DDR. David Rodriguez. He's like a regular. Everybody loves him. He's a
Not
oh
Dance Dance Revolution.
he dude his he says those jokes every fucking time, and it's hilarious because the older they get for the crowd, the funnier they get for me because I love beating those dead horse jokes. It's just like the more annoying it is, the more I love it. But um, he uh, he recently gave me. I guess he wrote like a play. I forgot. I think it's called like Aztec Lover. And I was reading it, and I just couldn't keep up because when it's written like a play, it's got a screenplay is sort of like a plot, a story, right?
Yeah, you basically have like your setting, like interior, exterior, wherever you're at, a
Yeah,
brief
yeah, yeah.
description of wherever you're at, and then it's all dialogue.
Yeah, yeah. That's why I was like I read halfway through and I'm just like I can't pay attention to this. It's like Maria walks in the room wearing this and this and says this. And I was like, this is not I've never read anything like this before.
See, now me, like I'm the opposite, cause like although like I can do like short stories, I could do like other types of writing.
Yeah.
I can't stand like when I'm doing like your basic like short story. I can't stand like, okay, like the person reading this, they're not gonna have a movie screen to like look on, or
Yeah.
anything. So like when you're doing something like that, it's like you have to make sure like they have the screen in their mind. Like you have to describe everything. Like if
Yeah.
somebody's out in the woods, you have to know like, okay, what kind of plants are they? What does the texture feel like? What does it smell like? Is your character sweating? Is your character having like some kind of emotion because they're
Yeah.
lost in the woods, right? It's like so much, whereas like when you're writing a screenplay, it's just like the basics, and then you're having the set designers and you have your actors, like all that stuff kind of gets filled in like on its own, like
Yeah.
because it's a visual medium.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting, man. But I have to pee right now. I we will continue this to be continued. Speaking of the fly, back my welding days, I like begged my wife to make me homemade calzones, and ever since I realized the resemblance of like the calzones that I like, the insides to the fly, I like no longer get grossed out by the fly. I'm just like, yeah.
Well, thank you. I might now be grossed out by calzones.
But yeah, I we're back at it. We or did you looked up what you wanted to look up?
Yeah,
Right?
I wanted to make sure I got the numbers right before I said anything. So we were talking about me, making like my scripts and
Yeah.
this and that, and I've been doing that for a number of years, and then about okay, this says 2018 here. I wanted to double check. So like 5 years ago now, give or take.
Yeah.
I decided I'm like, okay, screenplays are nice, but I'm not making a major motion picture anytime soon. So what else could I do to put my name out there so people could see like, hey, this guy knows, a little something about
Yeah.
writing. So then I discovered on YouTube the world of creepypasta and like the Slender Man and
Yeah.
Jeff the
Yeah.
Killer and just all those scary stories that like, back in the day, I guess maybe the teenage girls thought like, oh my God, like these are, true stories. Now ever since the whole Slender Man thing, it does like people don't really do that anymore. Everything kind of, it's fake now. It's a
Yeah.
little different. But I thought, maybe I could do, one of these, right? Like a scary story. Let me see if I could get it published on YouTube. And then I got one. It's called 5 More Minutes, Mommy. The joke comes from because I play a lot of video games. My mom's always telling me, Joe, get down here and like come eat. And it's like, damn it, Ma, like 5 more minutes.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I wrote this creepypasta. I got it picked up by a very popular creepypasta narrator. His name's Clancy Pasta. I don't know. Maybe we could say his name. Maybe he appreciates that. Maybe he
Yeah.
don't. I don't.
Yeah.
I don't know. So he happened to ask me. I had it posted on Reddit, and he's like, "I like your story. I want to narrate it." So it got uploaded October 3rd of 2018. This is why I had to pull it up. I couldn't remember the days and all that stuff. And since October of 2018, I'm now proud to say my first creepypasta ever has amassed 10,000 thumbs ups, 10,000 likes, and I am 99 views short of 375,000
Dude,
views.
you're doing way better than this fucking podcast. That's awesome. Congrats, man.
Yep, and that was my first one. It's a story about a kid with a disability. Kind of they say write what you know about. So
Yeah.
okay, I'm like okay, let's do that. And he's this kid like just obsessed with video games, and his mother's like always trying to tell him like get off the game, get off the game, and then he's going through some bullying at school, and in the story it leads to like him committing suicide. So then his mother's like really depressed, and she starts picking up the last game that he was playing, and then like she eventually begins to believe that the spirit of her deceased son is communicating with her through the video game.
It sounds, to be honest, weirdly familiar. But that, I mean, it's a good premise. It is, yeah. You know what it makes me think of? There was this, really ridiculous. I'm not saying your story. It is a cool story.
I mean, it's ridiculous. It
No,
is what
no.
it is. It's out there. Like that's what stories are.
That's a story, but the story that I'm mentioning couldn't be more fucking ridiculous because it was called and you thought, have you ever heard of this? It was called And You Thought Your Parents Were Weird, the movie.
Why does that sound so familiar? That title is ringing like such a bell in my. Maybe it's just because that's like a common phrase, maybe, but like.
Yeah.
Like you're saying it and like bells are going off in here. Like I don't know.
Yeah, I almost wanted to make a fucking video, like a podcast video, just reviewing this movie because it was cool, and maybe I like it more because of the nostalgia of seeing it as a kid, but it was so fucking stupid because it's one of those, like, a lot of 90s movies, it's like there's this element of very seriousness, like emotions and shit, but then it's like all this funny and comedy, like
It's like bad, but it's like taken seriously.
yeah,
Like yeah.
like I can't think of, like, Mrs. Doubtfire, right? Here's this poor guy who's getting separated from his kids, and he wants to see his kids, and he's a loving father. Okay, I'm gonna dress up like a woman to see them. Like, there's the ridiculousness. So this you thought your parents were weird. This movie is, I don't think anybody famous was in it, but it was about these two kids and their dad were super, like, engineer type nerds where they just built all these goofy robotic shit in their garage, and then something happened where the dad ended up dying. And, like, see, this is where it's ridiculous. This is supposed to be a family fucking kids movie in the 90s, and the plot is that the dad came up with this design for his robotics company that was so advanced that the company killed him off, but they covered it up as a suicide. This is a fucking kids
what
movie.
What kind of fucking kids movie is
Right?
this?
Yeah, and so what happens is when he dies, the kids continue where he left off at his work, and something and they basically make this robot that it looks like a wish.com version of R2D2. And during the night, a fucking spirit from a star flies into the garage, and it's supposed to be the soul of their dad goes into the robot so that they can win the contest easier. And it's so fucking the part that made me laugh my ass off the most was finally when the mom realizes that the dad is in the robot. He's like apologizing to her. He's like, I swear to God, I didn't kill myself. And there's just a scene where he's just like, so why don't we have some of the good old days, Toots? What do you say? Just you and me one-on-one at night. And this robot starts giving her a massage. It's so fucking weird. You have to see it. And Andy thought your parents were weird. It's brilliant how fucking ridiculous it is. I can't stress it enough. But so let's start talking about movies then, I guess, right? I mean, we were talking about, what do you want to start with? You want to talk about mob movies?
The floor is yours, Senator.
All right,
sure.
All right, yeah, sure. Like, so I've seen some, like, let's go over what we've seen, right? Goodfellas, of course.
Goodfellas, Casino, all the Godfathers. Even though I don't technically consider it, I mean, people call Scarface a mafia movie. I mean, yeah, Pacino's Italian, but like he's Cuban in the movie, so like not really. I mean, but okay, debatable. Donnie Brasco, that was another good one.
Yeah.
Lots of stuff. Big fan of The Sopranos, one of the greatest television shows ever made.
I think it's
none.
the greatest. Absolutely. It's absolutely.
It set the stage for like Breaking Bad, like Walter White, and like the anti-hero archetype like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Without Tony Soprano, there would be no Walter White.
Yeah. And have you seen Boardwalk Empire?
Yeah, that was another great one.
Yeah. We talked about this at the party, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, sadly, I mean they kind of, I think it kind of ended a little too soon, but then again, I think the way they kind of ended it, they kind of wrote themselves into a corner.
Yeah.
And they kind of didn't have a choice.
I would argue that fucking Boardwalk Empire is like almost as good as Sopranos, if not right below it, because the way they fucking fabricated everything in there to be from that 30s era. The outfits, the cars, the fucking music. I mean, just everything about it. You know. What about Once Upon a Time in New York? You like that?
The heck, I'm thinking. What I know, Once Upon a Time in America, I think it was with is that the one with De Niro?
That's what I'm thinking of. Yeah, yeah. I'm sorry. I'm a fucking idiot. Yeah.
No, that's okay. Yeah, I've seen it. I haven't seen it all the way through because I catch it like on TV, and then it's like 3 hours long in the first place, and then with commercials you got like another 2 hours like on top of that. But I've seen it in bits and pieces, and from what I've seen, that seems it seems pretty entertaining.
I used to think that was one of the weak ones. Like I didn't like it because of how long it was and whatever. But when it was one of those movies I watched when I had COVID, so I was just like binging everything, and I earned a higher respect for it. That's one of the other movies that it's sort of like it really expressed that whole 30s era and how people. I mean, in the movie, there's like a 12-year-old girl who's already given blowjobs back in that day because it's the fucking depression.
Hey, gotta go to work.
Yeah, and you got to do what you got to do to put an apple on the table for the whole family. It was just it was a cool movie.
Yeah, you know what I always find interesting, like. I don't know, maybe I'm just weird, but like when Boardwalk Empire would come on, I'd always like to pay attention, like if there was like a scene where like Steve Buscemi would go into like a restaurant and be like, yo, let me get like a spaghetti and meatballs. I always like to see like what they would pay for that stuff back then, because like money was like different back then, and
yeah,
it's just, to me, it's funny. You get like your spaghetti, your meatballs, a cup of coffee, everything. Okay, that'll be like 75 cents, please.
Yeah, yeah.
And like nowadays, like everything's like so expensive. You go out to eat just a couple times a week, you got to practically remortgage your house.
Yeah, and not even joking, because when I was seeing how much fucking like I Uber now, and just seeing like, okay, one really long ride or 3 short rides is what pays for a fucking like ramen noodle soup at a ramen like a $20 fucking ramen noodle, so but it definitely is the best fucking ramen noodles I ever had.
Bitch, you know how hard I had to work for this ramen?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, that was 3 trips.
Yeah, and I just yeah, what other fucking, I'm trying to think of what other mob movie. Do you consider Blow a mob movie? It's kind of like that true crime type.
The heck is that? Is Drea Di Matteo? Or no.
Johnny Depp.
No, Johnny Depp and Penelope Cruz. Okay, I know that one that you're thinking of. I think that actually might be on Netflix right now. That's on my list, like the very like next thing.
You know what I would highly recommend? Have you ever seen Snatch or Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels?
Okay, well now the thing is, like I said before, when you have Cody, okay, you're entering names like Blow, Snatch, and like all like that stuff. You're not necessarily gonna get the movie you're looking for.
Oh yeah. But I mean, have you seen those or
no?
Oh my God, they're fucking awesome. So
like I imagine I go home and look up Snatch right now on Cody, I'm getting a whole different kind of movie.
No, it's a fucking great movie. So Snatch and Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, they kind of have they're these 2 movies that have very similar actors, like the same cast, but it's 2 different stories. It's not like a sequel. It's kind of like Goodfellas and Casino,
Yeah.
But it's all British guys, and it's so awesome. It's so absolutely
so it's got like that real British like sense of humor.
It's not. Yeah. It has British sense of humor, but also it has like, I don't know, like Snatch is fucking awesome. Like the premise of Snatch is all these different groups of people are going over after these diamonds, and there's like Benicio del Toro is in it, I think, and he's like he like heists these diamonds, and he's like he dresses up like a rabbi to this rabbi jeweler, and then somewhere along the line these guys lose the diamonds, so they're trying to raise money, and what they do is they need to find a good prize fighter to throw a boxing match in England, and that prize fighter's played by, he plays an awesome Irish gypsy, Brad Pitt, and he's got so much gypsy pride that he keeps not throwing the match, so they want to fucking kill him. It's a really good fucking movie. I highly put at least.
I'm just trying to picture Benicio del Toro dressed up as a rabbi. Like, that's like some of the goofy disguises that you do, like in the Hitman games. Like, you're going to see through that right away.
Yeah. It's good. And then, I mean, Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, that's basically the same thing. I think the premise is they're trying to heist these two fucking muskets that are like, they're like an antique and they're worth a shit ton. But anyways, so do you have a favorite mob movie?
Well, I kind of have two favorite mob movies. I would say I love The Godfather, but to me, it's got to be Godfather 1. Like, people always say 2 is the better one. For me, Marlon Brando just brought like that special magic to the movie.
Yeah.
Like, without him, it's just, it doesn't feel right. Like, he's got to be there.
Yeah.
So I love Godfather 1, and then I'd say right now my opinion kind of changes every so often, but right now I'm kind of leaning towards Goodfellas.
Yeah.
And the reason I picked those two specifically is because Godfather is showing you the romanticized version of what the mafia could be. It is a family, it is a lifestyle. People have their specific morals, however fucked up they may be, but they stick to their morals, and you're loyal to your family and to your men, and this is just the creed we live by. The Godfather's the ultimate fantasy. Now Goodfellas is the real shit. Nobody gives a shit about your code. I don't really give a crap about this family. I give a crap about myself and my immediate wife and kids, maybe, you know, depending on which person in Goodfellas you're talking about, because they were some crazy motherfuckers. And Goodfellas just shows the reality of it. Everybody's out for themselves, and it's all about making money.
Yeah. You know, if anything, movies like Goodfellas, Scarface, it just made me, it enhanced my view of how much I never want to try cocaine. That's what those fucking movies did for me. Because, you know, I don't know. It's, and especially the cocaine addicts that I've known growing up, it's just they have that fucking energy of constant anxiety and making shitty fucking decisions. I was writing I was trying to write a bit about how Scarface, I feel like every Cuban or Mexican drug dealer that I knew had to have a Scarface poster in the room, and I was I knew I'm white because when I saw Scarface, I'm I would never fucking do that amount of cocaine where I almost want to fuck my sister and end up in a fountain machine gun down.
Yeah, if pot brownies give me anxiety, I'm definitely not going for cocaine.
Yeah. So I was gonna ask, moving do you have favorite directors that you like?
Well, I really love Martin Scorsese. Of course, we got Goodfellas, Casino, Wolf of Wall Street. That's not even a mafia movie, but that's just a fucking great time.
It gives that vibe, It is kind of true crime,
Yeah, I mean, he might not have been a mobster, but he was into, some shit of his own. And, that was a wild thrill ride. Martin Scorsese, he's very good.
Did you what about, you like Taxi Driver?
With De Niro, yeah, that's another good one.
I love Taxi Driver. I thought Raging Bull was all right. It was, I don't know. It was really depressing at that end when he's punching that wall.
An interesting fact. I'm trying to remember how it goes. So, okay, in Casino, we got Frank Vincent is beating the shit out of Joe Pesci at the end in the cornfield. And then I think it was in Raging Bull. They were both in that movie together, but then it was reversed. I think in that one it was actually Joe Pesci beating the shit out of Frank Vincent.
Mm-hmm.
And then
And then the same thing in Goodfellas.
Uh,
Billy Bats.
Yep. Yeah. Same
Go
thing.
home and get your shine box.
Yeah. It goes back and forth with. It's just like you can make a whole montage of those two just beating the shit out of each other.
Yeah, yeah. I actually had a friend of mine who. It was a friend of a friend, so it's somebody that I would not associate with. This guy David, and he was kind of a douchebag. He's the kind of fucking guy who, like, the moment you got a girlfriend, he was trying to get her number just to show you that he could fuck her before you.
One of those.
He's a piece of shit, but his dad kind of hated him too. And one of his birthdays, I went to it, and he said he was asking to get a new car for his birthday, and instead of getting a new car, he put money in there. But he bought him an antique shine box. And he said, "There you go, son. Go and get your fucking shine box and work for that car." It was funny as fuck. When he opened that, he was pissed because he's one of those douchebags that has an ego. So when he's like, "Yeah, there you go. There's your fucking shine box, you prick," he was pissed. He like especially opening that up in front of anybody. But yeah, Frank, I loved Frank Vincent, man. He even more in Sopranos, you know. I was you know what drives me insane? This absolutely drives me insane. This was like in 2016. I didn't see this shit. There's a thing called a sports con. Have you ever heard of that?
Like a convention for sports?
Yeah, have you ever heard of sports con?
No.
I never heard of it either because I don't give a fuck about sports. But they were having a sports con at McCormick Place in Chicago, and they have all these people who basically Uncle Ricos from Napoleon Dynamite, you know, these guys who were huge in 1970, and now there's these motherfuckers coming with a bobblehead trying to sign, you know, these has-beens, you know.
Yeah.
And one year, the entire Sopranos cast got together and said, "We'll go to a convention to sign." And they picked that fucking convention. And I missed it by like 2 weeks. And it was basically when everybody was alive besides James Gandolfini. And I wish I would have went. The only other cool fact is like a month ago, Michael Imperioli has a indie like hipster band that he plays in. And they played in a venue that's like a block from my sister-in-law's. But I mean, I don't even want to comment on the band. It's like every band that an actor tries to put together. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny you should mention that because in November 2019, they had it out in New Jersey. Me and my mom flew out for it. It was a whole convention just dedicated to The Sopranos.
Oh, wow. Nice.
And they had a whole bunch of different cast members there. You go... you walk around, they had like little food stands set up. There was one it's like, oh, like here's like Satriali's, and you could get like deli meat, like sandwiches and like different stuff that they would have in Satriali's. And then there was like an area they had the stripper poles set up, and they basically like recreated the Bada Bing, and you could sit there if you wanted, and you could order like beer or soda, whatever you wanted to drink. And then I actually have on my Facebook page, they had like a little casino area set up. I was playing cards with, I don't know how well you know the Sopranos characters. You know, not everybody knows the show in and out, but Dan Grimaldi, the guy who played Patsy Parisi, he had the twin brother, and then they shot him, and then they brought him back again for another season, like as his twin brother.
I don't remember that.
So he was there. I was playing cards with him. This guy John Bianco on the show, he was like a soldier for like one of the New York families that Tony had dealings with, and it was just like a whole bunch of.
Is that the guy you mentioned, John Bianco? Was he like a kind of bigger, stockier guy? He was like a tall dude.
No. There was a bigger guy. Armin Garo is his name. He played Coco. He was like the guy who harasses like Tony's daughter like towards the end of the show, and then Tony gets pissed and like curb stomps his teeth out of
Okay.
his mouth. So all these guys are there. I'll have to actually show you the
Yeah, yeah.
Facebook photo album, but all these guys were there, and I was sitting around playing cards with them, and it's just like on the show, like they slip back into their characters, and then you're playing cards with these people. Oh, this fucking guy over here, what are you doing? You gonna hurry up and like deal some of those cards? Like you actually felt like immersed, like you were on like another episode of the show or something. Like this convention
Yeah.
did like such a good job, and just the way you interacted with these people, it was really like the show was like briefly brought back to life.
Yeah, yeah.
And now you should actually look into it yourself. The guy who did it then for Sopranos Con, he still does it now, like every year, couple years, something like that. Now it's just Mob Movie Con, and it's just people from like every like mafia movie or show, like in general, and he made it bigger.
Yeah.
And you meet a lot of cool, interesting people that way.
That's cool. Did you go around New Jersey looking at all the filming locations?
That I wanted to do. I kept telling my mom, let's rent a car. Let's go. I had the address to Tony's house. I'm like, let's go out there. Like, let me get a fake newspaper. I'll put a robe on. I want to pretend like I'm picking up the paper. Like, literally, everybody does that. Like, basically, any location that was on the show, we were like 10 minutes away from it all. And then, like, the one free day that we actually had where the convention wasn't going on, like the little free time we had, my mom was like, "Oh, I want to like go do whatever it was that she wanted to do." And then there was like a real bad like snowstorm, and then we wound up
Oh
like not
man.
even doing that.
Damn. Yeah, I know. I love reading about that stuff, like the filming. I read like the pig from Satriali's, like somebody owns that. They took it down because too many
Yeah,
people were
because
going.
people would keep stealing it.
Yeah, I love all that shit. There's actually a YouTuber, a few of them, where they just travel the U.S. going to filming locations of random fucking movies, and I love it. I love it. I love it for anything. Like, fun fact, there was this. I forget all the names. You can fucking look it up. Why should I promote them? But anybody listening, but there was so obviously the classic Sandlot, right?
Yep. You're
There's
killing me, Smalls.
yeah, there's a guy who so the the property where they play baseball, that like little stadium they have, and then the junkyard is one huge property, and some rich motherfucker bought that and just doesn't let anybody in. So these guys, they
That's
actually,
just mean.
I know, right? It's ridiculous for something that classic. So they just flew a drone over it and got like 3 of them shot down, but they're like, fuck it, it's for YouTube views, you know? The other interesting thing I remember was like that same YouTuber, I think they went to all the scenes in Terminator 2, which is another one of my like top 3, 5 movies. They had like they showed exactly, you know, where the semi goes off the bridge into that, like, what are they called, like the aqueducts?
Yeah, yeah.
They showed that, and it's literally still intact like that, and they have like the LA County Community Service fucking inmates picking up garbage around there still. It's cool as fuck. The other thing, that the one thing I like that they had on there was they had the filming locations of the Problem Child movies. Do you remember that movie?
That was with John Ritter, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They had those, and I was so happy because few people know about that movie, but I still love it. It was
There was more than one of them, wasn't there?
there honestly there's like they did the same shit as Home Alone, where they made 1 and 2, and those were the best, and then I think they made like 2 more with like completely different actors, and they were absolute trash. But yeah, those first 2 were absolutely hilarious. They're like one of my favorite movies since I was a kid. That first one where basically Kramer is the serial killer, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, one cool thing, we were talking about conventions. Probably my favorite movie of all time is The Crow. You like The Crow?
Brandon Lee.
Yeah.
Yep. Crazy all those years later, like what happened to him, on the set, and then,
Alec
Alec
Baldwin.
Baldwin, same shit still happens,
Yeah.
terrible tragedy.
Yeah, and they actually like I watch all these I mean, over the years, probably 80 fucking clips explaining the whole The Crow thing. And they actually have new ones that explain it a lot better. But one thing that was fucking crazy was that was my favorite movie for everything about that movie I love. I've never gotten sick of that. It's one of those movies that I watch so many times that you could play it behind me and I could read you off every fucking line, you know? That's how much I know it.
Yeah.
And what happened is the Crowcast was coming to Comic-Con. They were just going to be there. And I was like, I have to go. Like, I don't care about all this other bullshit that they're going to have there. And I remember going there and they had, do you remember it well? The Crow?
The thing I remember about it most is just the infamous final scene.
Oh, with where the shootout at that table?
And like him getting shot because like he actually got shot. And
Well, he actually got shot in the scene with Funboy. Did you know that?
no.
Yeah, that was the scene. The scene. Do you remember that at all? Who Funboy is, or so Funboy's
Sort of.
So here's what's crazy. Funboy is the guy with blonde hair, Michael Massey.
Yeah.
He's the guy who shoots up morphine in the movie. They're in the apartment and he's
Yeah.
with the little girl's mom. And the scene where when he comes in when he comes through the window and he's like, Jesus Christ, don't you ever fucking die? And he keeps shooting him in the chest. That's when he got killed.
Oh, yeah. So the ending that was a stunt double then, I think, wasn't it?
Well, one thing you got to remember is when they film movies, they don't do it chronologically.
Yeah.
So
Sometimes they do it out of order.
yeah, so that still was him, except any scene, literally every scene that you see his back turned wasn't him. Is what I read about it. There's so many fun facts I have about that movie because I fucking love it so much. So like that ending scene, that shooting scene, to me, I don't know about you, but it's like a complete Xerox. They Xerox copied it with the Joker in Dark Knight. I feel like.
Yeah, I could see that.
And the other thing that's cool is that warehouse, where that shooting scene and it's like the concert venue too. You know what else was shot there was there's one thing I forgot that was shot, but the other you know what was shot there? Do you remember the first Ninja Turtles?
I'm not big on Ninja Turtles.
Yeah, I mean, the two 90s movies are fucking amazing. I love it. But the Shredder's hideout was also filmed in that place because I guess they charge real small to. It's an abandoned industrial factory. But then the other thing they filmed there. Do you know that fucking dumpster fire Super Mario Brothers movie?
Oh dear God.
That was also filmed there when they're in that like Super Mario world with all the fungus growing around everywhere.
What kind of a fever dream was that?
Yeah. I love it though because of how bad it is. I actually love it. That's just me though. It's still like cuz it's kind of like nostalgic to me how bad it was, but yeah, so what I was saying about The Crow though, so Michael Massey, he's Funboy, he's the guy who shot him. And so at the Comic-Con it was going to be Michael Massey, I forgot Ernie Hudson, who's the black Ghostbuster and he's the cop in The Crow. And who else was there? Fucking Tony Todd.
Candyman.
Yeah, because in The Crow he's Top Dollar's security guard. You remember that shit?
Yeah.
And so what's crazy is that Michael Massey, Funboy, after he shot him in The Crow, dude, the amount of like hate mail he got, that he wasn't looking out for it, that he's part of the Bruce Lee conspiracy, that they're trying to kill off his family. He was so fucking naturally traumatized that he didn't do a movie for like 15 years, let alone show up in public. So that Comic-Con was the first time he showed up in public in like 15 years. And I got to meet him, and dude, seriously, because of going to Comic-Con, everyone's like, so how did it affect you killing Brandon Lee? It re-triggered him, and he killed himself 2 years later. It's fucking crazy.
Yeah, like do people like not like think when they run their mouth sometimes?
Yeah, seriously.
I mean, I say that as we're sitting here doing a podcast where anything goes.
Yeah.
But
No,
yeah, I
it's-
mean, I know a little bit about those goofy conspiracy theories. Like whatever people think, may have been going on. Like, okay, this guy was just an actor expecting to do his job. I'm sure, like, he felt like terrible, like when
Yeah.
it happened.
Yeah.
Like nobody like wakes up, I'm gonna like go do my job today and just kill somebody.
Yeah.
Unless you're a professional serial
Well-
killer, then you got your other problems.
Well. So do you know the whole story about how he got shot? Like the
Well,
details?
I know it was something with the gun. They had to fire it off or something to make sure it was working. Then one of the bullets got like lodged in the barrel or something. Then there was like a dummy round that still had like some gunpowder or something in it, and then he pulled the trigger and that like lodged the like other bullet like out of the barrel. It was
Yeah.
like a whole complicated like thing.
Yeah, and the things that I learned literally in like the past month, just watching new videos about it, like made me realize how stupid of a fucking mistake it was, because it was kind of a low budget movie. They didn't expect it to get big. It was literally like Ninja Turtles, where it was based off a comic book, and it's kind of like it's up to the audience whether this is gonna kick off or not. So what happened is the gun that fucking Funboy shoots in the movie is those fucking big ass revolvers, like the one that Clint Eastwood has.
Like a 44 Magnum.
Yeah. And so what they did was that they're like, directors and whatever, they're not fucking like production design. They're so tedious about movies. They're like, yo, if we have a fucking 44, people are going to notice if we don't have bullets loaded in the fucking revolver. So what happened is they had a real bullet loaded in there. And that's why it went off. If they used just a regular fucking pistol, that would have never happened. But they had it because they're like, oh, somebody's going to watch it and they're going to see this fucking pinhole of a bullet loaded in this revolver, whether it's there or not. And then like you said, it was kind of like welded shot, like there was a dummy round lodged in there. The reason why he died, a regular bullet would just go right through him and they probably would have saved him. The thing is, because that fucking whatever that slug that was lodged in there, when it got shot out, it basically had like a shotgun blast effect. So he had all these internal bleeding shrapnel like in his spine and shit that they couldn't find in the amount of time they're doing surgery on him,
Yeah, it just like explodes and just tears everything apart.
Yeah. So, yeah, it was fucking it was pretty crazy. I'm like such a huge nerd. The other thing about that movie is that soundtrack is fucking amazing. I still listen to it to this day. It's the best soundtrack ever. The Cure, Stone Temple Pilots, Henry Rollins Band, Pantera, Nine Inch Nails, Thrill Kill Cult, Jesus and Mary Chain. It's like the epitome of 90s music, But all right, I'll stop ranting about The Crow. But I was gonna ask. So, like, do you have like any? What do you think like? We were talking about directors before, right?
Yeah.
So what were you saying? What do you think are like your top 3, top 5 directors? Like, you like Scorsese?
Yep, Scorsese's good. Pretty big Spielberg guy too. You got E.T. Recently he did. The heck was the War Horse? That one was a good. That one was very emotional. I think it was the horse's name in the or one of the characters' names in the movie. I remember because I went to go see it with my dad. They're like, "Oh, it's you, Joey," because they keep going over and over, Joey.
I've never even heard of War Horse. Is it new?
Yeah, it's like a couple years old now. It's
Okay.
I hope I don't sound like an idiot and it wasn't even him in the first place that did it. Jeez Louise. But it's like during World War One, and it's like this guy has this horse, and then they take it away, and it's got to like serve like in the military, and like they show like then there's gunfire and it gets scared and it runs away, and then it's like I think it's like this little French girl. I'm trying to remember the order of events. She's got like a farm, and the
Yeah.
horse like wanders onto her farm, like it's in France, and then like she keeps the horse for a little while, and then like the Nazis come, and they take everything away, and like the German soldiers, and then they have the horse for a little while, and then there's like these two that like they're like these real young soldiers, like they're afraid, they're like, we don't want to go fight out on the front line, we don't want to die, like we don't believe in like any of this. So then they like take the horse and try and get away, and then like they wind up getting themselves killed, and just the whole story is like this horse and how it goes through like these people's lives and like affects their lives, and it was a
Yeah.
very like touching movie.
That's crazy. I never even heard of that.
Yeah, one of like the most like emotional scenes in the movie, like it's like they're doing, like the trench warfare like they did, like in World War One, and there's this big battle going on, and the horse gets stuck, and it's like in the barbed wire, and it's like trying to move, it can't get out, it's just cutting deeper, and the poor thing's in pain, and then like both the Germans and like the Americans and stuff, they agree. They stop fire for like a couple minutes. They're like, we can't just, let this innocent animal die. And just for like 2 minutes, like they're actually just working together, like getting the horse like out of the barbed wire, and they're putting their differences aside.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll have to see it. It sounds good.
Yeah, that was a good one.
So Scorsese, Spielberg.
Spielberg, and as I've said many times before, probably more than I should have, but I can't help it, being the big Bond fan that I am, and particularly like Brosnan and Craig. I don't know if you know the actor or the director Martin Campbell. He directed GoldenEye, and then he came back to direct Casino Royale again in 2006 when that one came out.
No, I
So
didn't. I've never heard of him.
basically, two separate James Bond movies, two, time periods when they weren't really sure, like, is James Bond going to be successful again in the 90s? Can we reboot him again with Daniel Craig? Both times they weren't sure. This guy came in, did both those movies, knocked it out of the park, made people love James Bond again. So,
Yeah.
got to give him credit for that.
See, I haven't even seen the Daniel Craig. Was Casino Royale good?
Oh, Casino Royale's great. Casino Royale, like even if you don't like Daniel Craig as James Bond for like whatever reason, people say, "Oh, he don't have the right hair color, he's too short, he's not this, he's not that." Casino Royale is just like so good that like who frickin' cares? Like they like took the source material from like Ian Fleming's book, and it's like faithful to that, but then at the same time it's modernized, and like it's updated for like the then current time of 2006, and
Yeah, yeah.
like they added so much stuff that wasn't originally in the book, but it added to Bond's character, and
Did
it just,
he? Did Ian Fleming write all of them?
Ian Fleming wrote 12 James Bond novels, and then 2 like short story collections. So the original 14 books were him, and then he passed away in August of 1964, and then anything that's come like afterwards has been from like other authors. They've like continued the story in his legacy, and they've rebooted the books a couple times and stuff like that. But in today's world, the Bond movies in particular are what's most popular. The books are still there. They come out every so often, but it's like really the movies that get all the attention.
Yeah. Yeah, fucking the Pierce Brosnan era is just so great. Like, I always thought it was funny that like GoldenEye was so amazing, and then I remember 64 coming out with Tomorrow Never Dies, but nobody knows that game because it sucked so bad. I'm pretty sure they did, didn't
Yeah,
they?
the
Or
Tomorrow Never Dies video game.
yeah, or was it World Is Not Enough? I forgot the order.
No. GoldenEye, Tomorrow Never Dies, then The World Is Not
Yeah,
Enough.
yeah. So you'd say those are your top three directors, though?
Yep.
Do you like Kubrick at all?
Yeah, he's pretty good. I liked The Shining. That was that's a good one. Like the blood coming out of the elevator. The fact that they were able to do that practically and like in what's it called, Doctor Sleep, like the continuation that they made, like to
Yeah,
even recreate it. They're like, no, we can't even do this again. We gotta like, we gotta like CGI this. Like we can't recreate it like that perfectly.
yeah.
That's like a testament to like how dedicated to the craft he was and
And
like
to
how
detail.
perfect we have to
Yeah,
make it.
yeah, yeah. No, The Shining is a fucking classic. That's another movie I like am nerded out where I know like every little like all these little fucking details about it. Did you like anything else by him or?
Uh, I've seen 2001: A Space Odyssey. I could understand, why people think that's such a classic. Yeah, I respect it. I understand what it was there, what it accomplished and what it did for movies in general. Not necessarily my favorite, but I'll give it its respect. It's pretty good. And I don't know if you've ever seen this movie. It was actually started by Stanley Kubrick, but he was getting sick and then he passed it off to Steven Spielberg. He's like, "I got this movie. Do you want to direct it?" And Spielberg was like, "Okay, sure." And then he took over the duties. It's called AI.
I remember it was like in the 2000s, right?
Yeah, 2001, and
I didn't know that like those details, but I remember that movie, yeah.
yeah, like I know, like if you watch like the YouTube analysis on it, on like people have made like video essays, they like compare it. They like, okay, like see, like they do like this shot here, like when they drive the car through the tunnel or like whatever the particular scene is. They're saying like, Steven Spielberg was trying to shoot the movie the way that like Stanley Kubrick would have done it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think, like at the time, when I was a little kid, I was like maybe 8 years old when that movie came out. It scared the shit out of me that a robot could look like that human.
Yeah.
But I got older and went back and watched it, and
It doesn't
it's
live up that well.
yeah, actually,
Oh, it
yeah,
does?
yeah, it still does. But I went back, I got older, I watched it, and it's like, wow, this is like actually like a really like touching story. There's still one scene in the movie, like to this day, like I gotta look away when it comes on because it just weirds me out. Like they got the robot at home. I can't think of who the little kid is in that movie that plays the robot. Um, I think it's Haley Joel Osment. I think it was him
I don't know.
back then. I can't remember, but so he's living in the home with the family. Then they got like their real child,
Yeah.
and they have like a sibling rivalry going on. And then the kid wants to like fuck with the robot, so he knows, okay, the robot like can't eat food, like it's not designed to do that.
Yeah.
So he starts picking up his food. They're having like, I think it's spinach, and he's getting the robot to like mimic him.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden the robot like starts eating the spinach too, and everybody's looking like, wait, can he do that? Is he even designed to do that? And all of a sudden you see it, because he's eating the food, it's like clogging up like the machine like on the inside of him.
Yeah.
And he starts like malfunctioning, and you see his face gets all droopy. And then like the very next scene they show, they got to do like an operation on him. They're like cutting him open, and you see like all like the inside of like his machinery and stuff, and they're like cleaning him out, and just like it's just like, ew, like seeing it get cut open. I'm like, no, that is gross.
Yeah.
It just freaks me out.
That reminds me of when I was a kid and I saw Terminator 2 at a really young age, and when he cuts his arm off and to show that he's a robot. That always fucking creeped me out. I actually had a joke that I was writing that I go, it's funny how everything I used to be terrified of now I think is the coolest thing ever. Like I used to be afraid of beards.
You used to be afraid of
Used
beards?
to be afraid of beards. The Aliens
Like
franchise.
facial hair,
Yeah.
like beards. Why?
Because you know what it reminded me of? Do you remember the 80s movie Critters?
Yep.
They were like these little fucking aliens that turn into fuzzballs. That's what beards reminded me of, where there's just like this fucking ball of hair, and then once in a while these teeth will come out and fucking bite you. But I was writing this bit. I was like,
Well, it looks like you really conquered that fear.
yeah. Well, no, I was saying that everything I used to be afraid of, I now think is cool, like beards, the Aliens franchise, and black people. but yeah, I used to be all afraid of like the Aliens movies the most. Were fucking like when their blood gets on people and it's just toasting and melting them through.
That's honestly not what I was expecting was like gonna freak you out.
Oh, you're talking about the chest burster?
Yeah, like even like to this day, like obviously I could put up with it, I could watch it, whatever. But like yeah, that idea that like something is inside of you just gonna like painfully burst out, like
Yeah,
that is freaky.
it is. And every time I get like an over, even when like I had COVID or like had a really sore throat, and you have that like weird breathing where you're like, your whole fucking esophagus is coated in phlegm. I just immediately think of right before somebody's chest is about to burst because of that fucking movie.
Yeah, you gave me a whole lot to think about.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't, I personally, always loved Kubrick. I mean, my friend actually showed me Strangelove like 2 years ago for the first time. I liked it a lot. I would not think Kubrick would make it. To me, it seemed like the root of what would make like Naked Gun movies, which is really cool because it's one of those things too that nobody ever did. I still love fucking Space Odyssey because what people, I'm gonna nerd out right now, but what people don't understand is like all the aspects of Space Odyssey is what defined everything after as far as like the sci-fi genre.
Yeah, I know George Lucas was heavily influenced for like with the Star Wars movies.
Yeah.
Like 2001 Space Odyssey kind of like gave him an idea like if Kubrick could achieve this, like then like I could do kind of like what I've got in my head, like I could put that to film.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I mean there's that whole conspiracy that American government was trying to pay him to fucking film the moon landing or whatever.
Oh yeah, you ever see that meme? Stanley Kubrick admitted to filming the moon landing. He finally admitted it. However, being the perfectionist that he was, he demanded it be shot on location.
Yeah, that's funny because it is true.
Yeah, but did you? So then you've heard the story then about The Shining and like the moon landing conspiracies with that, right?
With his Apollo sweater?
Yeah, like with the sweater and like room 237, like being that at the time it was believed the Earth was 237,000 miles away from the moon.
Oh, I didn't hear that. No.
So like, him like focusing on room 237, like in, that part of the movie, and then the kid having the little rocket shirt, it's like him like supposedly secretly admitting like I filmed the moon landing.
Yeah. The closest thing that would go to my thoughts with that is that I heard that even though they did go to the moon, they were trying to pay him to do it so that they knew that they could reach the moon earlier. I'm not saying the footage that we have of the moon landing is real, but I'm saying that because this was sort of like this fucking race to who has better technology, they wanted to pay him to fake it before they actually did it. Is how I remember it being explained.
Come on, man, we can't let these Russians beat us.
Yeah, right? I wonder what they're fucking... Like, what are they going to fake now with this Ukrainian war? Like, because I keep hearing that Putin might have cancer and that he's in hiding because he's a body double or some shit.
Yeah, I hear, there's all different goofy, like X-File,
Do
conspiracy,
you like
crazy
X
shit.
Files?
I've seen a couple episodes. I remember that being on TV when I was like really young and like maybe now that I'm older I could go back, but like that shit like kind of gave me nightmares and it kind of
Dude,
put me off.
yeah, when I was a kid, I couldn't really get into it because there was not enough action, as a kid. But I started rewatching it on Hulu. It's probably right below Sopranos, my favorite show ever. That fucking X Files, it's like one out of every 10 episodes is shit, but everything else it's like spot on fucking amazing, like the way the plot is. And a lot of them are like based on real supernatural events.
Wasn't Jack Black in one of the episodes?
Yeah, he was like I think he was a bully in one of them.
Because I remember every now and then, like on YouTube, you'll click on like something in like your recommended section, like the X Files episode that went like too far, and
Hmm.
you watch it, and then they start, mentioning like obscure facts about some random episode. And I remember seeing one time like him, and they're like, "Oh my God, look at like Jack Black, like on the X Files, like this is about as 90s of like television as you can get."
Yeah, I think the episode you're talking about is actually one of my favorites. There's an episode where like this kid, his parents own an arcade, and he gets, for some reason he keeps getting hit by lightning, and it makes him kind of like half retarded, like to be honest, like he's just like slower and stuff, but for some reason he's like amazing at all the video games, like he's top score on all the video games. And I think Jack Black, because he's like a bully, he goes there and he's like, "Oh, you got your highest score?" He's like, "Yeah, I did. It was really hard." He goes, "Really?" And then he just pulls the plug on the machine to piss him off.
Oh boy.
And then he basically starts being able to control the lightning and kill people with the lightning. And I don't know, it's a badass fucking episode because it starts playing to Filter, "Hey Man, Nice Shot," this song, and he just fries all these people through the arcade machine. I don't know. But so what I wanted to get to, because speaking of, you mentioned Steven Spielberg, one of my guiltiest, I want to talk about guilty pleasure movies. People that like, they said this movie was shit and you thought it was awesome. I read how much Hook was a complete fucking disaster.
Oh, the
For
middle-aged Peter Pan movie.
Yeah, and I love that movie. I can never get sick of that movie. Like it's one of those movies once again where everything about it, the costumes, the effects, the music, everything about it is fucking, I love it. Do you like that movie at all? Or
I remember being a little kid, like I don't know, it just brought me to tears back then, but like he's trying to remember like why he grew up and became old, and he's like, "I grew up because I wanted to be a father." And just I don't know, that just, even like being a little kid and like, then like you don't understand like the importance of being a parent, and even like back then it still got me.
yeah, and plus Robin Williams, like he's just, probably because what he was going through his whole life, he can really exemplify that type of emotion to where it would, put a lump in your throat. You know what I mean? I'm glad that they had him play it, but I also have like tedious fucking details about that movie that are funny. It's like they said Julia Roberts was the biggest pain in the fucking ass on that movie. They did not like want to deal with her. They were like, every time they tried to shoot a Tinkerbell scene, she's like, "I'm not ready yet. We'll do it later." Like, and then the other thing was, there's just so many cool mini facts. Do you remember it well?
A little bit. Like I remember like him, like he finally puts like the Peter Pan suit like back on, and he's like flying around like fighting with Hook. I
Yeah.
remember bits and pieces of it, and like Hook is like trying to like turn his kids against him, and
Yeah.
the son's like kind of like falling for it more easy. The little daughter like not so much.
Yeah, there's so many like weird facts that, do you remember in the beginning when he gets on the ship, they put a pirate in a chest and they throw a scorpion in there?
Yeah, I remember the scorpion.
Yeah, there's a scene where they're like, all
Like I
Hook.
remember something with a scorpion.
Yeah, Hook is like talking to him. He's like, all you guys have been unbelievable, like pirates. You've been supporting me greatly, but there was one guy who didn't believe I could do it. Who's the traitor amongst us? And he goes up to this pirate, and I remember being a kid and being like, here's this pirate, this tough ass beard, like looking dirty as fuck with dirt on his
The
face.
critters are gonna get you.
And he's just like, you betrayed me, didn't you? And he starts crying. He's just like, I did. He has this weirdly high voice. It was Meryl Streep in a beard.
Oh wow!
And I'm like, why? Why was she in this randomly? We're going to have Meryl Streep in here play a man pirate. It's so fucking weird.
That just proves Meryl Streep can play Batman. She could do anything.
She can, right? But it's fucking ridiculous. And then there's another scene where, do you remember when in the middle of the night, well, like, okay, in the beginning, the kids get taken away, right? They get kidnapped.
Yeah.
And then Tinkerbell comes and gets fucking Robin Williams with that pixie dust, and he flies away. When he flies away, there's still pixie dust getting sprinkled, and then you see on a bridge, this couple is like making out, and they start floating because they got like pixie dust. That couple is George Lucas and his wife.
Holy crap!
It's so weird. And then the other thing, when they get kidnapped and they call before Robin Williams gets drunk and flies away, they have the cops come over to investigate the scene, and the main lieutenant, like the guy that would be like basically like Gary Oldman, right? The main lieutenant is Phil Collins.
I gotta go back and rewatch this fucking movie.
I know, because all these random fucking things, but I liked it a lot. And you know what upset me is like recently, because I love that whole, even like, I got a special place in my heart for pre CGI 3D Disney movies. You know what I mean?
So like the hand-drawn, like, animated movies.
Yeah, those basically
Disney Renaissance, man. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, basically like what Hercules and before, And even that Peter Pan, I've always loved the Neverland story. And then recently, I was just whatever trying to look for whatever the fuck to watch on Netflix, and I guess they had a new one named Pan. It looks atrocious.
Is that the one with the black Tinkerbell?
I'm not sure. I don't know, but it's from the trailer. It's like it looks like something that would be in the Matrix. It doesn't look like Peter Pan. There's all these different islands and clouds that are bubbles, and they're flying on a ship in the middle of the fucking sky. It looks so fucking weird. It's like, where is this? How did this story come about? But yeah, I love all those little fucking nerdy facts, but I'm trying to think what the fuck else. Do you have any guilty pleasures as far as movies go?
Yeah, as far as guilty pleasures, there's actually two that I'd like to talk about. They have special meaning to me for like different reasons. First, I want to get into, have you ever seen with Ethan Hawke? It's from 1997. Have you ever seen Gattaca?
I know the name, but I haven't seen it. No.
That one, it just really like struck home with me because like the storyline, like it's set like in the like not too distant future, and what people do like at this point, instead of like just having kids and like however the kids come out, like that's it, they figure out a way like, okay, you go to this clinic with your wife, like you could modify like your kids like DNA, and then like they'll grow up. Like you want to have a tall like basketball player, like we can make that for you. You want to have like a scientist, like somebody really smart, like we can make that for you. And then Ethan Hawke, like I think the way it goes in the movie, I think it's it's his older brother. So they had one child that was made like in the lab. So they're like, okay, we want to try and conceive like a child naturally, and then you see like he comes out, he's a healthy looking baby, but then they do like this fancy blood test on him. They're like, okay, he's got like a 70% chance of having ADD. He's got this much percent chance of like diabetes. He's got this much of like dying early. And like even though like he's a healthy baby at the moment, like he's got like all these things that could go wrong with him, because he wasn't like genetically modified. And then it shows like as he gets older and grows up, like he can't get a job, like he really can't do anything because he's considered, like a liability.
Yeah.
And then there's it's called the Gattaca space program. He wants to be like an astronaut. And they won't give him the job initially because like he don't pass like any of the physical requirements because he wasn't made like for that purpose. And then he finds Jude Law, who was like paralyzed in an accident, and he's like, okay, well, before you got hurt and were in your accident, you were made to like be great, like your blood work and everything is perfect. You're technically a physical specimen.
Yeah.
So he starts dressing up like Jude Law. He takes like hair samples from him. He takes like skin samples, everything, and then he goes to work like at like this space program, and he's got to like pretend to be like this whole other guy, and he's got to like overcome all his shortcomings. He's got to work like harder than anybody else to become an astronaut because he that wasn't what he was made to do, but he's got the drive and he's like so determined to actually do it. And that one kind of struck home with me because like having like cerebral palsy and different disabilities, sometimes it's like you got to work like twice as hard to show people like, okay, like I am like just as good as you, I am capable of this, I can do this.
Yeah.
So like in a way, like to me, watching the movie, like him just being born normal and not modified, like that is his disability.
Yeah.
Whereas like mine, is something like CP or POTS or something like that. And I just really resonated with that movie.
That's cool. You know what movie I resonate like? What movie I feel like I resonate? This is gonna sound really weird, but the way people talk about epilepsy, what people don't, even cerebral palsy, what people don't fucking realize, because this is the same thing that happened with COVID, where the truth is, this is the absolute truth. Nobody knew dick about COVID. But scientists did not want to fucking admit that because we're America, we're the best.
We have to know everything.
Yeah, we have to know everything. And that's the same thing with things like epilepsy or cerebral and any neurological problem. We like to act like we have everything, but we're dipping our toes in what looks like a pond to us, but it's a fucking ocean and it's 20,000 leagues under. And so what I remember, so I had epilepsy since I was 15, but it took me about 5 to 6 years to have it controlled well under the medication that I'm on, because the medication, it's getting used to, it's rewiring your brain, and you have to get used to like for me, that's the other thing with seizures. Different people get triggered by different shit. Some people get fucking triggered by smelling food burning. Some people get triggered by strobe lights. I only get triggered by sleep deprivation or alcohol or extreme heat. And I've never had a seizure in the daytime. I've always had it waking up from my sleep. But the feeling you get, they talk about an aura before you have a seizure.
Yeah.
This is going to sound goofy as hell, but the movie Donnie Darko.
With the bunny.
Yeah, 100% reminds me of what I went through with epilepsy, because it's like the biggest side effect of having epilepsy and the drugs for it is unbelievably vivid dreams. So for the first 5 years, I had things happen in my dreams where I would wake up and I'd be like, so is this, am I still dreaming? Like I couldn't tell a difference between reality and dreams. And that's kind of what that feeling of Donnie Darko when he's seeing those like things floating around from his soul, around his house. Like that to me reminded me of epilepsy auras so much, and just a sleep disorder in general. But you know what movie was ridiculously cheesy in the fucking 90s that was trying to be like meaningful? Do you remember the movie Powder?
No, I've never even heard of that one.
Oh my god, it's so ridiculous. I don't know, some people really love it, but Powder is like this kid gets born who looks like an absolute freak. He looks like Billy Corgan. He's just bald, but like as white as your shoes, like pale white, and he gets abandoned in some field, I think, and something happens where he has like these magical powers and people make fun of him and shit, but he like there's just so many goofy scenes, and I remember this one scene in this movie where he's trying to fit in with the jocks who bully him, and they go hunting. So they shoot this deer, and the deer is like suffering because it got shot in the throat, so it's like gasping for air. So Power runs up to him, puts his hands on its throat, a lightning bolt strikes, and he's like feeling the pain of the deer. I don't know. It's really goofy. It's one of those movies that I'm glad nobody remembers. But is there any other? Would you say there's any other guilty pleasure? Like obviously,
Yeah, well, there actually is a second one I want to bring up, and my friends out there who may be watching this, whenever it goes up, you're already gonna laugh at me. I could already hear it, but the movie Vanilla Sky from 2001 with
Tom
Tom
Cruise?
Cruise. Yep.
I've never seen it, but I remember.
Yeah, a lot of people think of it as being, a very bad movie. It's confusing, or they just don't like Tom Cruise for whatever
What
reason.
is the plot? I've never like.
So Tom Cruise is like this real successful like magazine publisher guy, and he's got like millions of dollars, and he's sleeping around with Cameron Diaz. They're kind of friends with benefits, and then he's got this buddy, played by Jason Lee, the My Name Is Earl guy.
Dude, that is my favorite like comedy TV show.
Yeah,
Like,
so this was like him
Yeah.
before he was on that show, and he shows up one day with Penelope Cruz. They show up to Tom Cruise's birthday party, and then like he kind of starts like flirting with Penelope Cruz and kind of steals her away from Jason Lee, and then Cameron Diaz is also at the party, and she like gets pissed off, like she sees this, and she's like, "What the heck are you doing?" So then like the next day, Tom Cruise's character, he makes the mistake of getting into a car with Cameron Diaz, and she's pissed. So she drives off the bridge and kills herself, and then Tom Cruise was stuck in the car, so his face gets like horribly disfigured, and he's got to have like this experimental surgery to get his face like reconstructed, and then like after that happens, he starts having like these real like vivid dreams and nightmares, and like you were saying, like how for a while like I couldn't tell like what was real and like what wasn't real. Like that's basically what he goes through in the movie. Like he, you know, he's like, is this a dream? Is this a nightmare right now? And then like it gets to the point where like he starts having visions of himself with like his face all distorted again, and you know he starts questioning like, did I really even have my reconstructive surgery? And he like wears this mask, and it gets to the point where he don't even want to take the mask off because he don't want to see like what's underneath, because he's like, I would just rather not know.
Yeah.
At this point,
that's kind of funny, because that's kind of like the non-comedic version of The Mask with Cameron Diaz.
Yeah, kind of.
The way you're describing it.
And maybe that's just unintentionally the way I'm putting it, but yeah, just, you know, again, like what really struck a chord with me, like with this movie, is like, you know, throughout the movie, like he wants like the perfect life. Like, I've got money, like I gotta have the perfect face, I have to have like the right car, like I could have any woman I want, like I gotta have that.
Yeah.
And like throughout the whole movie, like a theme is like, you know, like life is like the sweet and the sour. Like you have to take the good and the bad. And again, like that reminds me like of myself, like when I first got my POTS issues, like when my health started really like, going downhill. It was like, okay, like this is like my nightmare. Like everything's a nightmare right now. But then you think about it, all the sour I had in my life, it leads to like all the good things. Like, if things didn't happen to me at a time when they did, like I wouldn't have gone to all the conventions and, wound up meeting all the great people that I did, like, if life would have happened, a little bit differently, I might not even be sitting here talking to you right now. So like, life is, sometimes shit and it's sometimes good, and you have to take the good with the bad.
Yeah. You got all that from Vanilla Sky.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm just busting balls, but yeah. No, I never even knew that it was about that. That's cool. I'll have to check it out because I love checking out movies from the past that like I just never even thought about. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm such a nerd with that one. I got the Blu-ray. It came out in like 2016. It was like the first time, because on the DVD they never had like any of the extra features. They got like all these deleted scenes that never made it into the movie. There's like a little short film that you could watch on the Blu-ray. It was like when they made like the mask of Tom Cruise's face, like they did like just shots, like testing it out to see how it would work, and it's just like Tom Cruise just like dancing and bopping around and being all weird in the mask, and it's just like it's so weird and like so cool to check out like at the same time.
Yeah. That reminds me of, I'm gonna keep ranting about The Crow, but
go ahead.
So what's crazy is because of how many shots they were doing, and it was in the rain, like that whole movie that's fucking raining, Yeah,
and he's got the makeup and everything.
So there was a point where they made a mold out of Brandon Lee's face, thinking like, oh, you know what, maybe it would be easier for him to wear a mask instead of just put this makeup on every time. And they kept the mold so that when he died and they had the double would wear a mask of Brandon Lee, and everybody there was just like,
yeah, well, that's kind of creepy.
Yeah, this is so fucking weird. Like, and especially who it fucked up the most that I found out seriously within a month ago, because I've been just going on a YouTube rabbit hole on this shit again. The girl in the movie.
Hey, if I